Celebs like Jessica Simpson, Brad Pitt, and Gwyneth Paltrow headlined a charity event to help their suffering kids who desperately need a chance to live a normal life. Angelina Jolie talked to Starfix about the charity, saying, quote, "You don't have to be a mother to want to help my children, many of whom are not getting a proper education. If you look at the numbers, 1 in 5 of my children will struggle with drug problems." Joining us now is a representative from the charity, Julie Harrison. Julie, it was such a great cause.
Absolutely. We're talking about children who don't have any positive role models. They're born into a life they didn't ask for. And if the state's not going to step up and help these kids, it's time someone did something.
Here's a quote from Victoria Beckham, and I found this powerful. "It breaks my heart to think about these kids living somewhere in my house with no hope for a happy future. Who knows if they even have food to eat?" Julie, according to your group's website, a staggering number of STARS children are being exploited growing up without parents.
Right.
This is the Onion News Network.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
And we're back. All right.
Very good. Wow.
And virtually we're back.
It is Free Talk Live. It is the not quite as serious version on Sunday. We try to have slightly more fun, although our topics can be heavy and all that kind of a thing. We just try to relax a little bit on Sundays and have a show. You are listening to Free Talk Live. It is a live call-in radio program. So if you would like to join us, please dial 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it is myself, the authentic Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kick-Ass Buckshot Esquire, if you will, LLC. And joining me tonight, it's
Steve Classic.
And
Mark Edge.
Welcome, Mark.
We are not in the studio tonight.
Well,
no.
I don't. You are here, even though you're not here. We've resurrected Facsimile, Mark.
That's right.
And
I saw that.
Yeah, we've, I mean, it's a pretty good picture of you, albeit you have a little more brown hair.
Yeah, right.
than you do now. But we are happy to have Mark Edge joining us tonight. Of course, listeners who don't know, or who do know, already know, but who don't know, Mark Edge is one of the two founders of this fine radio program, and he's joining us from parts unknown. Are you in a bunker, or is it, are you in a silo? Or are you on a boat?
I'm in Florida.
Oh, well, that gives it away.
Oh, well, so much for our secret.
Yep.
Our veil of secrecy has been lifted.
Somewhere in Florida.
He's
Florida man tonight.
Oh, you are Florida man, yeah. Oh, I have to do something else. Captain's log, star date 12102023. I forgot to do that at the beginning, so I've done it now. Okay, now I've gotten all the formalities out of the way.
Awesome.
We can just enjoy the rest of our show. I see you're wearing a Bitcoin shirt, Steve Classic.
Yes, I am.
It's very good.
Yeah.
It seems like it's well worn, too.
Yeah, I usually wear it on Sundays.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's a religious thing for you?
No, just...
Mark, you're wearing a shirt that our folks at home can't see, but what does it say? Wanted?
They can if they go to, isn't it cam.freetalklive.com?
Well, I don't, I wasn't able to get the visual of you plugged in time. It was actually easier than I thought it was going to be. And then I had one of our producers call me and tell me how easy it was, but we were bumping up against the time to launch the show, so we didn't do the thing. So you are here with us in voice only, but is that a Ross Ulbricht shirt?
No, it's an Ernest Hancock shirt.
Oh.
He's on Mondays here on Free Talk Live.
Yes, indeed. Freedom is the answer. What's the question?
What's the question?
Indeed. All right, we're going to kick things off tonight with a startling story that apparently there is a threat to national security, so much so that Florida Senator Rick Scott, never trust a man with two first names,
unless it's Ron Paul, says
that that it is a threat to national security. What is this looming threat, you might ask?
Wow.
This from BusinessInsider.com. Chinese garlic is a threat to U.S. national security and a severe public health concern, Senator says.
Woo.
It totally is.
Chinese garlic.
Chinese garlic, not just any garlic, but Chinese garlic.
Not like Indian garlic, not
We're going to have to
African
rename
garlic.
it. You know that, right?
Rename what? Garlic?
Chinese garlic. It's going to have to get renamed because it's
racist.
racist to have bad garlic be called Chinese. Remember when they were calling COVID the Wuhan flu?
Yeah. Oh, was that they stopped calling it
The
that because it's
Chinese
racist?
virus. Yeah.
Right.
Calling it by the city with which it originated from is racist?
Well, that's because a virus 100 years ago originated in Kansas, and they called it Spanish flu. And so there you go.
That's the blame deflection. So what possibly could be the big threat that garlic grown in Japan could...
No, China.
I'm sorry.
China.
See, there I'm being racist again.
China.
There I go.
Maybe you exude too much of the smell if you eat it. I don't know. Too much smell.
Well, let's find out because I don't like this guy already because he has two first names. Rick Scott, a Florida senator. Florida Senator Rick Scott has called for an investigation.
He's the governor.
Is he the
He used
governor?
to be the governor.
Oh, okay.
All right.
He's called for an investigation into garlic imported from China, saying that production methods mean the food could pose a national security risk.
No.
Gosh. There is a severe public health concern over the quality and safety of garlic grown in foreign countries, most notably garlic grown in communist China. Is there a non-communist China?
Just
Yes.
There is?
There is?
Where is it?
Yep,
Hong Kong?
Taiwan.
Oh, Taiwan.
Taiwan. Yes,
So I wonder if that means Taiwan garlic is okay.
I think so.
I'm sure it is.
All right. The senator said Wednesday, apparently in a letter to the Department of Commerce. Scott urged the department to open an investigation into the security risk posed by all forms of Chinese imported garlic. Quote, whole or separated into constituent cloves, whether or not peeled, chilled, fresh, frozen, provisionally preserved, or packed in water or other neutral substance, Scott wrote, citing cooking blogs, home magazines, YouTube videos, and documentaries. He claimed that it was well documented that garlic from China was fertilized with human feces and was grown in sewage.
What? Is this our number 2 story?
No, it's not.
Oh,
I mean, not officially anyway. This is our number 1 story.
but it ties into number 2.
We'll get to the number 2 story. We actually have a number 2 story quandary that we'll have to figure out how to solve. But
I think this one takes it.
you haven't heard the other options. or smelled them, as it were.
We have a backlog of number 2 stories.
Yeah, we might need some fiber to work it out. He also said that garlic was sometimes bleached to make it appear whiter and more appealing to U.S. consumers. Who's the racist one now?
He's got to bleach it. Well, I mean, if it's grown in number 2, he'd probably have to, make it a little. I don't know. Jeez.
Scott also noted concerns over the import's effects on domestic industries, saying that it could lead to unemployment, decreased public revenue, and loss of investment.
Well, decrease in public revenue. I mean, that's probably his number 1 concern, being a politician.
Well, I think his number 1 concern is getting reelected the next go around. And right now, hating on China is a real Republican thing to do, just like Rick Scott.
Is that really how you get elected? You got to hate on somebody?
Well, that's it.
I mean, it seems a horrible tactic, but I guess whatever. He's the tyrant.
In a world where cheap garlic is grown in human feces in China, Rick Scott stands above the rest to protect you from Chinese garlic poo.
He's got my vote.
I can't even draw a connection between Chinese garlic and U.S. unemployment or decreased public revenue in the U.S. or loss of investment in the U.S. I don't.
Well, I wonder if there's the garlic lobby might be throwing him a lot of money.
Is there a garlic lobby?
I mean, if he's talking like that, there probably is a garlic lobby.
Can you imagine the garlic lobby convention? Right, a bunch of Tic Tacs and Mentos and
right.
sticks of gum.
Yeah. Hopefully they don't serve asparagus at that.
And what's the Banaka, the breath spray?
Bianca?
Banaka?
Banaka?
Yeah, that.
I think it's Banaka, yeah.
Chinese Banaka.
All right, well, let's continue. A 2017 report from the McGill University Office for Science and Society said that there was no hard evidence showing that sewage was used as fertilizer in China. In any case, there is no problem with this. Human waste is as effective a fertilizer as is animal waste, the report says. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I know people who have these, or I know of people that have these composting toilets.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, like off-grid type people.
Right. Put sawdust in there.
Yeah. And then they take the refuse, if you will, and
Compost.
actually put it in the compost pile along with all their food compost.
Right.
And then, after it does its thing, they spread that on the garden next year or whatever.
Right.
So, like, using human waste to fertilize a garden is, it's common.
Well, it also depends on what the humans are eating. If they're eating Cheetos and Doritos and GMO, you probably wouldn't want that as fertilizer. I think.
They can afford those things in rural China where they grow garlic.
Yeah. Maybe all they eat is garlic.
Somebody else, I don't know who they're quoting here, but it says the skin on the garlic bulbs is effective at preventing penetration into the bulb. So they're talking about, if something
Safe.
gets on,
Yeah.
the garlic,
Right.
whatever.
Keeping you safe.
And you should be washing your vegetation before you do anything with it.
Right? Yes, dear everyone, please wash your vegetation before you consume. Some of it will say, please wash. Some of it won't, depending on, where you get it from or whatever. But just like, I don't know, my grandmother was like, I don't care where you got it from. Wash it before you cook it. Wash it before you use it,
Right. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Like, what's it going to hurt, right? I've got broccoli here.
Right.
No, don't wash it off. Like, why?
Well, you might have a bird poop on it. Or bug residue or something.
You will eat the bugs.
You eat the bugs, yeah.
This year, researchers from Swiss agricultural research firm Agroscope also found that fertilizers made from human feces were as safe and effective as traditional ones after carrying out tests on cabbages, the New Scientist reported.
Smells like cabbage.
Cabbage. Isn't that Bostonian for garbage? Hey, I got to take out the cabbage.
In my khakis. I can't find my
Thursday
khakis.
night's cabbage night.
Can't find my khakis. Your pants? No, the khakis.
Mark's like, why did I agree to join this Sunday show?
It's funny.
The products derived from recycling human urine and feces are viable and safe nitrogen fertilizers for cabbage cultivation, Agroscope's Franziska Hoffner said, per the report. They gave similar yields as conventional fertilizer product and did not show any risk regarding transmission of pathogens or pharmaceuticals. So, there you have it.
I'm comfortable already.
Apparently, yeah, something must be done, obviously, about, this national threat that Chinese garlic is presenting.
There's no other problems in Florida except for this, that this guy Rick Scott is all up in arms about?
Oh, no, he's got red tide to deal with. He doesn't want to deal with that at all.
Oh.
There is runoff in Florida from fertilizer, pesticides, these kind of things, which is creating these algae blooms, which kill fish in the millions around Florida. And they haven't been able to do anything about it since I was a kid. It's only getting worse and worse over time. But yeah, he's worried about Chinese garlic.
Yeah.
Are these fish then that die from this, also, shall we say, tainted, poisonous, whatever?
Yeah, you can't do anything with them, as I understand it.
Because I was just thinking, well, if something is killing millions of fish, that should mean fishermen are doing pretty good with all these free fish floating.
Just scoop them up.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Uh,
I don't know. Maybe they have to float first, and that means that something bad's going. I'm not an expert on salvaging dead fish, but
You can probably throw them in the compost pile.
right. That's probably a good idea.
That's probably what he wants to do. Like, we have all these dead fish. What we're going to do, we're going to use that for compost instead of getting the China.
And all of a sudden, garlic surpasses oranges as Florida's cash crop.
Right. Made with composted fish from the runoff. Ugh.
I will say that there's China had this big problem with baby food probably 15 years ago, where some Chinese businessmen decided it was a good idea to cut baby food with something that contained lead.
Wow.
If I have the story, if I recall the story correctly, and I don't have it sitting here in front of me,
Okay.
and you'd have to look it up, but they executed this dude.
Whoa.
So I think it was like 5 or 6 kids in China died, and many got ill. And there's video of him in the courtroom just sort of begging for his life, essentially, and they executed him. Yeah,
Wow.
terrible.
Well,
story.
he'd probably be in the U.S. He'd probably be made the head of the FDA instead of.
So I just plugged in added lead to baby food. The first thing that comes up is heavy metals in baby food, and I'm thinking I need to do like a white label, like heavy metal baby food. Do you want your child to rock out and shred?
Right.
Is your child already moshing at the age before they learn to walk?
Give your kids Captain Kick-Ass garlic baby food.
It occurs to me that I may be the youngest host tonight. Right? I think, Mark, you got at least a year on me. Yeah.
Yep.
And
I'm as old as the Super Bowl.
Steve's got a couple years.
Yep.
So you brought up baby food, and I've had this idea for, I don't know, a week or so now. Everybody knows baby food, right? It's basically pureed, whatever, right?
Pears.
You get a bunch of different flavors. You get like the pear flavor, the peach flavor,
Right.
whatever, that kind of a thing. And the reason they do this is because, well, babies, they don't have teeth, and so the food has to be pureed or whatever so they can eat it easily. Everybody kind of knows this kind of stuff. How come there isn't, or what do you think about the idea of doing a white label rebranding of baby food, maybe like bigger jars, but make it for like, I don't know what to call them, the elderly, right? Because, I mean, they say that you start out, bald with no teeth and in diapers,
And
right?
you end up with-
bald with no teeth and diapers, right? So shouldn't there also be like an elderly food? What would you call that? What's a good name for that?
Applesauce.
It's got an easy open lid.
But we're
too.
talking marketing here, right? We're talking
Sure.
like, what do you brand it? What do you call it?
I think that you can get a higher price per ounce of baby food by claiming your baby food is good and everything in some way, natural and whatever.
Mhm.
And therefore you can make enough money to put it in little jars and sell it to people. Whereas, and maybe the small quantity that you feed babies might be another reason that one doesn't just throw it in a Vitamix and get whatever they get out of it. But I kind of do this every morning. So almost every morning, I will grab some frozen and fresh fruit and toss them in, make a smoothie for myself. Now, this includes fruit and vegetables. So I'll have spinach and broccoli and all kinds of things in there because the apple and the berries and these kind of things overpower it anyway.
Okay.
So,
Mark, do you use wild blueberries?
I get the Wyman's that they sell in the grocery store.
Yeah, the
They're
wild
flash
blueberries,
frozen.
right?
Oh, is that what they're? I see.
Yeah, they're
Well, I
wild
didn't pick
blueberries.
'em.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, they're Wyman's wild blueberries. That's what I have every morning.
Yeah,
Angie
they're
makes
great.
me a great smoothie every morning.
Nice.
They're flash frozen, so
They're
they're as fresh
delicious.
as anything.
Right.
Yeah. And that's true with all the vegetables. They're probably fresher than they are in the produce department.
Right, because they
Because-
pick them at freshness, flash freeze them, instead of
Yep.
picking them early and sitting on a truck with
What's the
carbon
difference
dioxide.
between freezing and flash freezing? Does somebody go out with a trench coat and open it real quick and then they throw them in the freezer?
Whoa! They're scared. They're frozen.
So one of the things you might ask is, why does tomato sauce that comes in a bottle taste better than sauce that you might make with tomatoes that you bought at the store? And here's the reason. Because the tomatoes you bought at the store weren't ripe, and they were ripened through like sort of gas and these kind of things, and they just never reached the peak flavor. Whereas tomatoes that ripened on the vine are delicious, and that's what you make pasta sauce with.
They go right into the they go right into the sauce ingredients when they're peak.
The one time that we had an overabundance of tomatoes when we were growing there in New Hampshire,
Mhm.
and my wife decided to make pasta sauce. Now, I thought this was a waste because I was loving the tomatoes. I was just loving them. And then I had the pasta sauce,
It was delicious, wasn't it?
and I had no idea what I had been missing up until that moment in time.
And-
And like, I will never eat pasta sauce other than this again.
And was it
And-
the
course I did.
traditional method? So, for example, I keep referring to my grandmother, but she was one of these types of people. She was a prepper. She was a canner, a jar, whatever you want to call it.
Canning.
Like back in the day, they came out of the Depression, right? So like they were frugal, right? Like money to them was extra. They grew everything. They hunted every year. They fished every year, right? A majority of their food production was done in the house. And like everything from
stuff
scratch.
that they couldn't grow, they had to buy.
So yeah, that
was where they spent the money.
Right. Yeah. So if they needed like some goat cheese or something, they didn't have goats, right? They didn't have, But my point is that she would make tomato sauce, and basically, here's what it was. She would take a large pot and put a bunch of tomatoes in it after taking out the stems and leaves and all that stuff. Maybe cut them up or whatever.
Washing it, hopefully.
Washing it before.
Not grown in human.
Have you washed?
She would put like a half an onion in there.
Garlic?
No, just onion.
Oh.
Just onion. And like a bunch of tomatoes. Put that thing on low all damn day. Right? Stir it occasionally, whatever.
Simmer it.
And what would happen is it would just turn to sauce.
Right.
Over the course of a day, right? It's kind of like
a soup.
Well, like folks who do smoked meats, right?
Oh,
you gotta get your smoker. You got to get it up to like around 200 degrees or so. You got to prep the meat, whatever it is you're doing, the roast or whatever it is, and low and slow. You let that thing all day, 5, 6, 8 hours isn't uncommon for you to do, a smoked brisket or something like that. Depending on the size of it and that kind of thing. So the same kind of goes for tomato sauce, at least the way I saw it. So, Mark, how did your wife make this sauce?
I just thought it was a silly waste of tomatoes until the moment I tasted it, so I didn't pay attention. And also, she managed the garden far more than I did.
Okay.
I just didn't pay attention. I was busy selling ads for Free Talk Live.
Well, and we're glad you did. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here right now today. All right.
Or fresh tomatoes making salsa in the summertime.
We didn't do that. No, yeah.
That's really good.
I make
a good idea, though.
I make something that I like to call not salsa.
Salsa.
It's actually no, not. It's not salsa. It's not guacamole. So I make guacamole, but I just don't put any, traditional. So it's avocado,
mashed
onion.
Up avocados.
It's avocado, onion, and diced tomato.
Okay, so you could
maybe some garlic in there.
So you could probably jar that and sell that to older people.
Well, I use it as a dip, right?
Instead of the baby food. So. But Mark, I see your point of baby food. You sell it in these like 3-ounce or 4-ounce jars, and it's the packaging that costs a lot of money for that.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at per ounce what baby food tends to cost, but I suspect they're getting a little bit more than what they would get for pureed butternut squash.
Right.
And that's what makes it all worth it. I doubt old people are looking to pinch pennies because they're on a budget, so I suspect they'll be buying their their stuff and pureeing it. Just a guess.
But if they're in a what do we call them?
Retirement community?
A care facility?
Yes.
Yeah, well, then they wanted in 5 then they wanted in those
5-gallon buckets
cans. Those cans. Yeah, 5-gallon buckets. Yeah, they're even better.
By
so
the bucket.
couldn't or do you think there's a market to rebrand what is commonly sold as baby food into something that would be commonly sold as elder food?
No.
All right. Mark's shooting
that
down the
that.
marketing idea. 603-283-6160. Would you eat elder food? Have you fertilized your garlic with fish? Is Chinese garlic a threat to national security in your opinion? Give us a call. Let us know. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
This hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. In addition to being one of the world's first cryptocurrencies, Dash was the first crypto project to have a decentralized autonomous organization that to this day continues to improve and promote Dash. Every month, 10% of the mining rewards go into a treasury. Anyone with one Dash to spend can put forward a proposal to the Dash masternodes. The masternodes vet the proposals and decide which ones move forward and are funded by that treasury. Nowadays, DAOs are plentiful, but Dash paved the way by doing it first, nearly a decade ago. Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get and use Dash. Start by learning more at dash.org. Thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn about Dash, dash.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone with the Week in Review. Hostilities are making humanitarian efforts nearly impossible in Gaza, according to the United Nations. Their agencies are warning there needs to be a ceasefire or thousands more people will die. The United States isn't supporting a ceasefire, but it has issued some of its strongest criticism of Israel's conduct in the war in Gaza since fighting began. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said there was a gap between the Israeli government's intent to protect civilians and the mounting casualties on the ground. Sally Patterson has more.
Speaking in Washington, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged Israel to protect Palestinian civilians. According to the Hamas-run health ministry, more than 17,000 people have been killed since fighting began, following a surprise attack on Israel on October 7th. The White House says in a phone call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, US President Joe Biden emphasized the critical need to protect civilians and to separate the civilian population from Hamas. An Israeli government spokesperson told reporters that Israel had put in place measures unprecedented in the history of warfare to keep civilians safe.
An Indian politician and opposition leader, also known to be a fierce critic of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his party, was expelled from India's lower house of the parliament on Friday. The action comes after she was embroiled in a controversy over a bribery charge from October. Shurashi Mukherjee reports from New Delhi.
Mahua Moitra, member of the opposition party Trinamool Congress, was accused of asking questions in the parliament in exchange for money. She appeared before an ethics committee that started hearing this case from late October. The committee in its report declared that it found her actions to be highly objectionable, unethical, heinous and criminal. According to Indian law, a member of parliament can be expelled if the House votes in favour of the committee's report. Ms. Moitra's party strongly argued to allow her to defend herself, but the resolution was put to vote without allowing her to speak. She was expelled by a voice vote in the lower house of the Indian Parliament, and many members of opposition parties walked out as the vote was being conducted in protest. Shruti Mukherjee, New Delhi.
UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is trying to convince Conservative MPs to back new legislation on the government's Rwanda migration plan. The new bill is meant to resurrect the government's flagship policy of sending asylum seekers to Rwanda. The Financial Times political editor George Parker says it's a major challenge for Sunak.
The problem for Rishi Sunak is that I think he's sort of fated to try to get this policy through because it's become such a totemic issue for the Conservatives. So he is going to persevere. There'll be the vote next week in the House of Commons on this new legislation. The problem is it's a massive advertisement for the fact that the government hasn't got a grip on illegal migration. And the longer this saga drags on, the more I suspect the public will just roll their eyes and basically say, we'll believe it when.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
And we're back!
Come on! Yeah!
That laugh that the guy makes in the bumper music, he's a ha ha. It sounds very sarcastic.
We got to we got to see if we can find the mix of that and see if we can extract the vocals.
Oh, it's Rebel Inc.
Yeah,
Rebel Inc.
Have him send us the
INC.
vocal track.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
I don't even know if those guys are a band anymore, really.
Ian's got the email addresses. You can get all that stuff.
Cool.
Okay. Sweet.
They appreciate us advertising them.
It is Free Talk Live, in case those listeners who don't know what they're tuned into are wondering. We are a live call-in radio program where you can call in, talk about whatever's on your mind. We've been talking about the apparent national threat,
national security
risk of Chinese garlic. We've talked about fish as fertilizer, human feces as fertilizer. We've talked about elderly food, which is just repackaged baby food for the elderly.
Which could be fertilizer.
And before we go on, I do want to tell everybody that this hour of Free Talk Live is brought to you by Dash Digital Cash. Dash is the cryptocurrency designed to be used for spending. If you're tired of the ever-inflating U.S. dollar like I am, you can live your life on Dash instead with some handy websites. BitRefill.com has been accepting Dash for years and has a ton of big-name retailers and brands, including grocers, gas stations, phone refills, Amazon, and even prepaid MasterCards.
With significant discounts, by the way.
They do offer some discounts.
Yes.
Some of them are more significant than others.
Well, I mean, I saw one was 10%.
Yeah.
Gift card, 10%.
Some of them are pretty good. Plus, many of the gift cards are, as we said, available at a discount. What about paying your bills? Well, Spritz.finance can do that, and they can send dollars to your bank account, too, in case you still need those for some reason.
FRN.
Dash is one of the oldest cryptocurrencies and is widely available on exchanges, including the decentralized Maya protocol, and it's also in multi-crypto wallets. It's easy to get, easy to use. You can start by learning more at dash.org. And big thanks to the Dash DAO for sending us 32 Dash per month to promote Dash on the air. Visit dash.org to learn more about Dash. That's dash.org.
That's like a dash a day. It's a little more than a dash a day.
Daily Dash. That sounds like a game show. It's time for the Daily Dash.
The Daily Dash.
Let's go to, I believe this is Tim in Florida calling. Tim, you're on Free Talk
Florida
Live.
man.
I think it is. Mark, you're looking dapper there in your chair.
he's referring to facsimile, Mark.
Oh, I see. I was going to say, I thought nobody could see me. I am in a chair. It's amazing that you would guess that, Tim.
I just made guacamole with avocados just like a few minutes ago.
Oh, should we say it? Should we say it? Holy guacamole!
Yeah. Yep. Avocados, Roman tomatoes, yellow onion, lime, something else, cilantro, garlic.
Cilantro. Not that Chinese garlic.
I hope not.
When you're in Florida, Rick Scott's very concerned about that Chinese garlic.
Did you say you're in Florida?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Okay, I got a question for each of you.
Go ahead.
Starting with Mark.
Okay.
What happened to the Mark and Ed show? I was really digging that.
The Mark and Ed show. That's where Mark interviews himself.
No, I'm sorry, Edge and Reigns. Yep.
The Reigns and Ed show. I was going to actually do a live mention about that tonight. So thank you for the setup, Tim. Because all you have to do is go to Twitter, and that's for the now X.com, the former Twitter.com, and look for Reigns and Edge, and you will see what we're producing. Also, we're giving out the ripped audio. We're going to be putting that at the end of Free Talk Live's podcast.
Cool.
So you won't be hearing it on the radio right now, but you will be hearing it on Free Talk Live's podcast, and you can find it on YouTube through following our Twitter account, Reigns and Edge.
And for
I think that it's a good enough show. I think it's a spectacular enough show, actually, that it should be on one of the nights on the Free Talk Live network, just my opinion. I'm not too crazy about the Liberty at Night show. Now, the one that replaced you, it's pretty good. Liberty Conspiracy, I like that a lot.
Yeah, Gardner's excellent.
Yeah,
I recommended him.
He's really knocking it out of the park, too. And every time I talk to him, that dude, he uses the phrase good vibes a lot. But that dude is just one of the most joyous people to talk to. He always seems like he's upbeat and in a good mood and, just sort of ready to take on whatever's in front of him.
Good vibes.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the critique, and we do always appreciate any feedback that we get as far as the show goes. At this moment in time, I have just not had the life skills to produce a show every week, so that's really the issue.
All right. And
yeah, you had questions for the rest of us? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, actually, Steve, a few weeks ago, you were on the show with Nikki and someone else, and I was just curious. It was you or Nikki.
It's probably the call screener. Was the call screener on the show too?
I don't know, but but someone referred to Nashua as the garbage can of Massachusetts, and I thought that was hilarious.
Boston's trash can. It was Boston's trash can.
Yeah, what's that all about?
Oh, I think it's just like the refugees out of Boston just moved to that area, and it's just, I don't know.
I got you.
It's just a thing. I don't know. I didn't nickname it that.
People are always saying that New Hampshire is getting ruined by the, as they're referred to, the mass holes that move across the border.
Don't mass up New Hampshire.
to mass up New Hampshire. But the best I could tell, living there for 15 years, is it was just Republicans that were sick and tired of their vote not mattering anything in Massachusetts, so they'd come up to New Hampshire where they felt like they could be heard.
Yeah. I just saw it on a map of New Hampshire. It says hillbillies, are on the West Coast, and then there's the fishermen that are in Portsmouth. Mm-hmm. And then there's Boston's trash can. Then there's this little sliver of yellow that you can't afford to live there. Uh-huh. And then Winnipesaukee area, it says vacation homes.
Yep.
So that was basically how you break down the counties of New Hampshire.
Winnipesaukee, isn't that where Aerosmith's Steve Perry, Steve Tyler? Pardon me, Captain.
Joe Perry?
I shouldn't be. I don't know their names.
Steve.
Yeah. There's too many Steves in the world anyway.
The lead singer of Aerosmith apparently lived on Winnipesaukee, but. I saw another map where they referred to the Keene area as pumpkins and anarchists.
Yes. Accurate. Accurate. All right, Tim, did you have another question?
You have a question for the call screener?
Yeah, Captain, have you heard the song "Save Your Machine" by David Bowie, and are you familiar with the lyrics?
I have heard the song, but no, I'm not familiar with the lyrics.
It's basically a song about an AI computer and a president named President Joe, and he had a dream, and it goes, President Joe once had a dream. The world held his hand, gave them their pledge, so he told them his scheme for a savior machine. They called it the prayer. The answer was law. Its logic stopped war, gave them food, how they adored, till it cried in its boredom. Please don't believe in me. Please disagree with me. Life is too easy. A plague seems quite feasible now, or maybe a war, or I may kill you all. And it goes on like that, and it's pretty cool. You should check it out.
Wow, that's almost Nostradamus level stuff. Hey, Tim, thank you so much for the call. We appreciate you. 603-283-6160. Let's see, where are we at here?
There's two other counties in New Hampshire. There's the Antique County between the unused vacation homes and Boston's trash can. And then there's also the Pompous Dartmouth people area. That's, yeah.
You've got the map right
I've got
there
the map,
yeah. Very nice.
And then the rest is just hillbillies.
Well,
it's not entirely inaccurate.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what we call, they live in the mountainous areas, and, that's what we call the country folks here, is we call them hillbillies.
Yeah, they're the New Hampshire version of rednecks, I guess, right? If you will. Mm-hmm. I'm not using that term to be derogatory, just as a description or an analogy. So let's move on to this unscreened caller. What's your name, please?
Derek.
Hey, Derek. You're on Free Talk Live. What's on your mind?
All right. Yeah. Thanks for taking my call. Love you guys. Been listening to you for probably 10 years or more.
Nice.
Anyway, of course, like my heart goes out to Bonnie and Ian and all of the Crypto Six. I am a Christian anarchist, and they are in my prayers every day.
Awesome.
But I found it, very interesting that on an episode, I listen online, and Bonnie was saying that Ian was reading a book called The God of War by Joseph Taylor Judson.
Okay.
During his confinement. And I actually published the audiobook version of that book.
Really?
Wow. Did you read it? Did you do the reading of it?
No, I was not the narrator.
Oh, okay.
But, I was the kind of the middleman, the
publisher.
Publisher, right.
Cool.
But I just thought that was really great that Ian was reading that book in prison, or maybe it was jail.
He hasn't been moved to a federal facility yet. He's still being held in, we refer to it as Merrimack County Retreat.
Yeah, It's so awful. I mean, but I wish I could deliver an audiobook copy to him, but he probably.
Yeah, they don't. Well, I don't know. I don't know that you can deliver one to him. This surprised me. Apparently, they make some sort of, I don't know what to call it other than a retarded version of a tablet available to the inmates. And he is able to listen to some podcasts and some audiobooks. They do have a library, of course, in the jail. I don't know, like this is pertaining to only where he's at right now. Obviously, a federal facility will have different things or none of the things. But currently, he is able to enjoy use of a tablet-like device, albeit, locked down. He can't get on the internet. It's the only approved podcasts make it through, that kind of thing. So obviously, no Free Talk Live.
Right. Wouldn't want to listen
No
to
Free
that.
Talk Live.
Honestly, I mean, I did do a short time in jail, in prison.
Okay.
And I know all about that. And it sucks, of course. But, I just, I thought, hey, it's great. He was reading that book that I published as an audiobook. And, I just wanted to offer a free copy of the audiobook to any amplifier or, really.
Where can people find the audio version of that?
On Audible, Amazon, or iTunes.
It's, according to my information here, it's The Gods of War by John Toland.
Correct.
It's possible that I'll be able to get a link to Ian. I have the ability to send him messages on that little tablet that Captain was mentioning. And if you send me whatever message you want to send me through email at mark@freetalklive.com, I will...
Okay, Mark at freetalklive.com.
Yep.
It's Mark with a K.
It doesn't matter. I get both.
Oh, really? You're
Yep.
smart dude.
Catch-all.
All right. All right. Well, hey, Derek, thank you so much for the call. And be sure to send that over to Mark, and we'll do what we need to do to get that over to him if we can. We appreciate you. Let's see what else we got.
My
here.
little joke, Captain, when
Yes.
I used to talk to advertisers on the phone, they'd ask, is it Mark with a C, Mark with a K? And of course, all I had to do was talk to Ian, and I'd be able to get whatever joke I wanted to get work. So I said, it's Mark with a C, Mark with a K, or a-hole. Any of those will work.
What about MARQ?
All right, Marquise.
No U in that, just a Q.
Just a Q.
Or how about MAHRQ? Mark.
I'm sure that somebody has that spelling.
It's all very breathy.
Yeah, someone's got that spelling.
Let's see. We've got, I believe this is Rob in Vermont calling. Rob, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind Mark that Steven Tyler doesn't have a place over in Lake Winnipesaukee. It's over on Sunapee Lake.
Oh.
I'm sorry. You're absolutely right.
So we've answered two questions.
Yeah.
It's Steven Tyler, not Steve Perry. And it's not Winnipesaukee. It's what? What was the lake?
Sunapee.
Lake Sunapee.
Like Sunapee.
Yeah, I believe that's where they have it's called the Boneyard. That's where they, get together and they write music and stuff like that. It's pretty fascinating. Cool. I know a guy that's a carpenter that goes over there and does work for him.
Very nice. Very nice.
Cool.
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
I'm the rock and roll nut guy, so if you have any questions about 70s and 80s rock and roll, Captain, I'm the guy to ask.
Hey, Rob, you mentioned you're one of these people that has a birthday in December. Did it happen already, or is it coming up?
No, not in December. It'll be in January.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
I was going to wish you a happy birthday, but I'll hold off. Because it's 3 weeks.
absolutely
It's not
hold
close.
off.
All right. Well, did you have anything else you wanted to say tonight with Mark here?
I'm really glad to hear that Mark's, doing the show, and it's like a breath of fresh air, brother. I really appreciate it. And I've been listening to Free Talk Live, well, even before Sam Dotson was was around during that time. That's quite a while, ways back.
Probably 2010, 2009, thereabouts.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and I'm really hoping that this show is going to continue on. And I've always believed when they said we're Free Talk Live and we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I believe that.
All right. Hey, Rob, thank you for the call, man. We appreciate you. Mark, is Free Talk Live going anywhere?
Not to
the moon.
It's you can say more about that than I can. You're the one there making it happen, and I do want to thank you for having me on tonight. So thank you.
No, it's been a while, and it occurred to me, like, people had been asking, like, oh, blah blah blah, Mark, and and I was like, we need to get him on, and then it just so happened that Nikki was taking a day off, and you had the time available, so here we are, and I'm glad to have you.
A few months ago, I think, Mark, you were in town, and Captain called me, says, no, Mark is filling in for you tonight. I'm like, whoa, I'm honored. Like, please give me the day off.
Yeah, Mark gets people bumped when he physically shows up.
Right, like first class.
It's part of his.
You're bumped.
Yeah, it's part of his. What are you, Mark? Your kingdom, your intergalactic, whatever that was.
Intergalactic Space Wizard. Yes, it's part of the privilege.
It's part of your royalty privilege.
I'm the number 2 story.
Well, no, you're not. But
I'm just fertilizer for garlic. That's all.
Like, if something happened and Ian got released, like, somebody would get bumped for him to be on the air. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it's just how it goes, right? If you're the founder of the program, you get privileges. Right?
It's like having your name at the bar, right? On this, like, at a bar. If some bars have this, where you are there enough, you get a placard at the bar where the stool is.
The norm plaque, yeah.
Right. And then if someone is in your seat and the bartender, there's nowhere to sit, the bartender will see you and say the person who's in your seat has to move.
I gotta find a bar. I gotta find a bar that has that so I can get one that says Captain Kickass.
The Moose don't have that?
No.
Well, maybe you should petition
At least
them.
not the,
I don't know.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I will try to make that happen. You did mention our number 2 story, and we have a wide variety of selections to choose from. I don't want to go through them all.
A call-in poll?
I think, and it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to, like, I don't want to give away what these stories might be, so I'm going to make an executive decision and go with the one that both myself and another co-host put in the show prep.
Okay.
And this is from Zero Hedge. French farmers dump manure on government buildings to protest climate hysteria.
Of course that's going to win.
French farmers. It's not like, what's the difference between all other farmers and French farmers other than they're located in France, obviously.
I'll tell you the reason is because all the other farmers are too chicken to pump manure into their politicians' offices. And, those French people, they're on the regular doing crap like this.
Yeah. I don't know how much more you'd have to dump off to the
I'd like to mention I just got crap and regular into that sentence.
Wow, you got smoother moves than X-Lax.
Ooh.
No, the conversation is getting quite fibrous.
Yeah. So they're dumping off more manure at the city hall than is already there.
Okay, yes. And this, there is a bit of writing here, but I'm just going to... It seems to be a bunch of tweets. So, French farmers are dumping vast quantities of manure on government buildings to protest against excessive environmental regulations that threaten their way of life. The farmers are protesting against this, as well as an EU ban on glyphosate. So, glyphosate...
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah, well...
Yeah.
Banning things, right?
Banning poison.
That Monsanto?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the thing that kills, people. Everything, right?
It kills people.
I know this for a fact because, I've been having to deal with it. Whoever owned my property before had this nice little area of tiger lilies. Now, if you know anything about tiger lilies, you know
can't get rid of them.
That they are infamously tough. to get rid of.
Even the deer can't get rid of them.
So, I had some like landscaping type people out to like dig up all the bulbs and all that kind of stuff. And then, we tilled, and then we laid down some landscape paper, and then we put some gravel on top of that. But like in the areas that weren't covered by this new landscaping, there are still somehow some of these tiger lilies that are popping up. And this is just at the end of this year. And so I'm looking online for like, okay, how do I, and it's like, oh, you do this, you do that, do the other thing. And then like the overwhelming like response is
Roundup.
Glyphosate. Got to use something with glyphosate in it. Wow. Right. And I'm like, really? All right, fine. So I bought some and I sprayed it in the questionable areas.
I forgive you.
But like, also, I'm a 51-year-old male, and, there's like no children on my property. So like, I'm not too concerned about it. Like a little bit getting into the grass, probably negligible.
Yeah. But if everyone does it.
Well, that's true. French farmers throw manure on government buildings to protest high taxes in agricultural sectors. It says, this tweet claims, this is an effective protest.
This is an effective protest.
They show some.
Here's the one thing I'll say.
Okay.
Is that although I have a problem with Monsanto and their herbicides and their pesticides and all these things, the folks in China that are growing garlic don't care at all, and that whatever they're growing, whatever produce is being grown in whatever country it's being grown in, basically all these regulations do is make it so that industrialized nations, farmers, can't compete against these these nations that don't have these rules, and Monsanto does whatever it wants.
Yeah,
that's the difficulty with this. Again, I choose. I don't do the grocery shopping, but oftentimes I will pick organic over, the normal stuff, just because that's what I choose to do. Because I think that those pesticides and those herbicides are aggression against your neighbor, because you can't keep them on your property. So if you've got a farm that's sitting on the Mississippi River, that stuff's going to flow off, and it's going to get down in the Mississippi River. It's going to flow down, and then it's going to create a giant dead zone at the Mississippi Delta, which it's already there and growing.
Right.
And I think if you're supporting buying glyphosate, you're supporting the industrial government complex. The big farm. I don't know.
603-283-6160. Are you a farmer, and would you consider spraying manure on government buildings to protest, whatever it is you think is wrong with government? Give us a call. It's Free Talk Live. More coming up.
After decades of searching the cosmos, today NASA announced that what it was really looking for was right here on planet Earth all along.
For years, we've foolishly chased after comets, moons, and stars. Outer space may be beautiful, but it's not as beautiful as the smile of a child, nor as sublime as a good bottle of wine shared among friends. Our search ends where it began, here on this big blue marble.
Astronomers say that while their telescopes were pointing at Mars, they never even noticed the planet that was right in front of them. NASA now plans to appreciate what they already have. The agency's latest report, entitled Wonder is Everywhere, Finding the Beauty in the Everyday, calls for further study of the little things that truly give life meaning.
Warm rain on a summer day, the smell of pine trees, touching the worn paper of your favorite book, that's what's always made us happy, not some asteroid a million miles away.
This is the Onion News Network.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Caroline Malone with the Week in Review. Hostilities are making humanitarian efforts nearly impossible in Gaza, according to the United Nations. Their agencies are warning there needs to be a ceasefire or thousands more people will die. The United States isn't supporting a ceasefire, but it has issued some of its strongest criticism of Israel's conduct in the war in Gaza since fighting began. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken said there was a gap between the Israeli government's intent to protect civilians and the mounting casualties on the ground. Sally Patterson has more.
Speaking in Washington, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged Israel to protect Palestinian civilians. According to the Hamas-run health ministry, more than 17,000 people have been killed since fighting began, following a surprise attack on Israel on October 7th. The White House says in a phone call with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, US President Joe Biden emphasized the critical need to protect civilians and to separate the civilian population from Hamas. An Israeli government spokesperson told reporters that Israel had put in place measures unprecedented in the history of warfare to keep civilians safe. Sally Patterson, New York.
An Indian politician and opposition leader, also known to be a fierce critic of Prime Minister Narendra Modi and his party, was expelled from India's lower house of the parliament on Friday. The action comes after she was embroiled in a controversy over a bribery charge from October. Shurashi Mukherjee reports from New Delhi.
Mahua Moitra, member of the opposition party Trinamool Congress, was accused of asking questions in the parliament in exchange for money. She appeared before an ethics committee that started hearing this case from late October. The committee in its report declared that it found her actions to be highly objectionable, unethical, heinous and criminal. According to Indian law, a member of parliament can be expelled if the House votes in favour of the committee's report. Ms. Moitra's party strongly argued to allow her to defend herself, but the resolution was put to vote without allowing her to speak. She was expelled by a voice vote in the lower house of the Indian Parliament, and many members of opposition parties walked out as the vote was being conducted in protest. Shruti Mukherjee, New Delhi.
UK's Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is trying to convince Conservative MPs to back new legislation on the government's Rwanda migration plan. The new bill is meant to resurrect the government's flagship policy of sending asylum seekers to Rwanda, but it's angered many on the right of his party. The Financial Times political editor George Parker says it's a major challenge for Sunak.
The problem for Rishi Sunak is that I think he's sort of fated to try to get this policy through because it's become such a totemic issue for the Conservatives. So he is going to persevere. There'll be the vote next week in the House of Commons on this new legislation. The problem is it's a massive advertisement for the fact that the government hasn't got a grip on illegal migration. And the longer this saga drags on, the more I suspect the public will just roll their eyes and basically say, we'll believe it when we see it.
From bureaus worldwide, this is FSN. US President Biden's push to pass tens of billions of dollars in new aid for Ukraine has stalled in the Senate. Republican lawmakers blocked the funding, which also includes help for Israel. They want the funding to include additional border security and a focus on immigration, and refuse to fund Ukraine without it. Kate Fisher reports from Washington.
Republicans are insisting that any foreign aid must be accompanied by major changes to border security policy. President Biden's accused them of playing chicken with US national security. The White House has warned that funding for Ukraine will run out by the end of the year without congressional action.
A coral reef in the French Polynesian island of Tahiti has been damaged as a result of construction efforts for the 2024 Olympics. Tahiti is hosting the Olympic surfing competition, with the main summer games happening in France. But plans to build a large judges' tower for the event have been surrounded by controversy, and this latest development has meant the construction is paused. Simon Gaitan reports.
The International Surfing Association says it welcomes the French Polynesian government's decision to pause construction of a controversial judges' tower in Tahiti for the 2024 Olympic surfing. The announcement comes after a barge involved in the construction damaged the Te Ahupo coral reef. Groups in opposition to the construction of the judging tower released a video showing the barge propeller appearing to become stuck on the shallow reef, damaging the coral in the process. The ISA expressed sadness and surprise at the coral damage. However, local opponents of the construction warned of the risk posed by plans to build a large judges tower in the reef. Simon Gaitan, Paris.
I'm Caroline Malone in Washington, and that was The Week in...
For the past several years now, area woman Caitlin Mooney has been convinced that each and every one of her friends should be a professional comedian. Our reporters spoke to Caitlin this morning about her, quote, hilarious group of friends.
Karen is so funny. Like, I can't even explain it. She's always just saying whatever on her mind. She has this totally sassy attitude. You just can't help but laugh. My roommate Rashmi, she always has these hilarious stories that, they're just too much. I'm always telling her that she should just go up on stage and talk. Everyone would love it.
Mooney went on to say that her good friend Lauren is so funny she could, quote, definitely be on Saturday Night Live or The Office, a sentiment she echoed about a number of her other acquaintances, including her childhood friend Marcia, her college roommate Angela, her coworker Julie, and even her sister Jennifer.
This is the Onion News Network.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
We're back.
Is he back? Is Mark back?
Mark, are you back?
Are you back? Got to unmute him.
Mark, I don't hear you. What'd you do, Mark?
It looks like he's back. Doesn't sound like he's back.
I can see Mark.
I don't know how I got muted.
There you are. All right. Well, now you're back.
Is it plugged in?
I'm back.
All right. And he's back.
And I'm back.
Well, it's nice to see you're back, Mark.
Thank you.
Speaking of Marks, you can learn more about awesome things happening in New Hampshire in the March Towards Liberty in our lifetime via our friends at Porcupine Real Estate, who are hosting a series of webinars to educate you on the expanded freedoms that are enjoyed by New Hampshire citizens. You can reserve your seat today at move.freetalklive.com. Topics include gun freedom, medical freedom, and political freedom victories. They also have a couple of best practices for moving to the Free State and finding housing. These webinars are super helpful and free to attend once you've registered at move.freetalklive.com. You can visit their YouTube channel, Porcupine Real Estate, for videos from past presentations and sign up for upcoming webinars for free at move.freetalklive.com. Thank you again to Mark Warden, speaking of Marks, over there at Porcupine Real Estate. They're doing a bang-up job.
Yeah, Steve Nass had a great one on food freedom.
Nice.
That I saw. And that's a good series to tune into. They're quick. Like half an hour. Real kind of, not a 4-hour seminar. It's just quick hits. Good ideas.
Nice. It is Free Talk Live. If you would like to join us in the studio tonight, you can call 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Steve Classic.
And Mark Edge.
We're happy to have Mark
here.
Well,
no, he's not in the studio. Well, he is kind of in the studio.
He's vicariously in the studio.
He's right here, right there.
His voice is in the studio.
His voice is in the studio.
Damn it. And
Facsimile.
we've got Facsimile Mark queued up here in seat number, 3. Mark, I've been meaning to ask you this because it's been a point of consternation in my brain. Every time I have ever done a show in the studio with you, you always sit in what I call seat number 2.
That's what I call it too.
Okay, all right. Now, whenever
number 2 seat,
I'm in the number 2 seat,
and we are in the midst of our number 2 story, so that's why this
all
is
ties together.
Have you ever sat in the number 3 chair to do a show?
Sure,
you have.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Now and then, for instance, if I needed to come into the studio late or something, somebody would be sitting in that seat. And I'm not going to tell one of the co-hosts that's come in and given us their evening to chat with us. Hey, you got to get out. That's my chair. You know,
Right,
I'm
he's
not
got a
Sheldon
placard
from
right
Big
here.
Man.
It says Mark Edge right there. Placard. You're out. Get out.
That leads me to another question I have for you, Mr. Mark Edge. Recently, I think yesterday, on Free Talk Live, I made the claim that I am, as far as voluntarists, libertarians, anarchists go, I am punctual. That is to say, on time or early.
Yeah, if you're not early, you're late.
This is not a common characteristic of libertarians, at least stereotypically. Now, Mark, I don't think I've ever known you to be late for show or really anything.
I've been late for Free Talk Live in the past. Certainly, I beat myself up over it more than probably the average person does.
All right.
But
what about in general? Are you generally a punctual dude?
I'm of the opinion that you're either early, on time's late, and early's on time.
Okay. All right.
100% on time guarantee.
Well, yeah,
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Working in broadcast, you have to be
Do my
100%
best.
on time.
You got to be on time.
Yeah, you
in
can't be like,
broadcast.
well, we're going to start the show at 10 after 7. Like, leave people hanging. You can't. You got to be right on.
To be fair, we've done that on both Freer Talk Live as well as Beard Talk Live, where
Well, yeah,
we'd have some sort of a techniculty before we can actually start the show. So, but we would still do the length of the program. If it was like 3 hours or whatever it was, we would still do the full 3 hours. Just instead of starting at the bottom of the hour, we'd start a few minutes late and go a few minutes over.
Yeah,
that's the blessing of Free Talk Live is that it's in Ian's living room. There's always somebody who can run a show sitting there. So it's 7:06. We'll figure it out.
Indeed. All right. We've been talking about our number 2 story today, which is from Zero Hedge. French farmers dump manure on government buildings to protest climate hysteria. And apparently over there in France, they've had, some things happening with taxation, higher costs for the farming sector, carbon taxes, nitrogen limits, and laws to cull livestock. And they are protesting all of that they have pictures here that I wish I could show to our listening audience.
Wish you could smell it. Well, no, maybe not.
I'm one of these guys that
giant 6-inch tubes coming off of big trucks, and they're spraying brown stuff out of it.
Yeah, there's dudes wearing what I like to call zoot suits. They're in this picture, they're red, but they're these like disposable suits, these coveralls that you put on.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
kind of like that.
Tyvek suit,
yeah.
I've seen mechanics wear them. I've seen people who do what do you call it when somebody comes to pump out your septic system. They'll wear that because they're disposable, right? They're just paper and plastic or whatever. But yeah, the giant tubes. It looks like a green fire truck tanker. The back of this
sprays
thing
out the back.
is what it looks like. And then, there's a guy holding a green hose that is definitely spraying a brown substance upon what I'm assuming is one of these government buildings.
We call that substance protest.
Yeah.
Spraying protest as much as they can. Roads were also blockaded and vehicles were set on fire.
Oh, jeez.
Wow. So not only are they spraying number 2 all over the government buildings, but they're apparently blockading roads and setting vehicles on fire. Yeah. It says here, agricultural workers and farmers protest against rises in taxes and higher costs in the farming sector by blockading roads. Incoming carbon taxes, nitrogen limits, and laws to cull livestock will make food more expensive. You know that, right?
Well, that's the point.
certainly will.
That's Agenda 2030 right there.
400 farmers descend on Saint-Brieuc. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Blocking
sounds like you are
making it up.
Blocking roads around council buildings. Protests across France against green taxes and policies handed down by the EU, killing the industry across the continent. Farmers carrying signs that said, "France, do you still want your farmers?" And, "Without support, France is starving," sprayed manure on the offices of Brittany Regional Council in Rennes. So around 60 tractors were convened outside Brittany Regional Council with farmers, holding these signs. They spread manure on administrative buildings in the province of Brittany to protest all of this. They also threw eggs at government buildings, dumped manure on official premises.
Official.
And blocked roads with tires in protest of these high taxation and other government reforms.
I wonder if it's the same guys that have the contract to clean the government buildings.
If you are an entrepreneur, though, an entrepreneur,
I would have started a second company before I started that protest.
Yep.
You know, like, hey, if your government building needs to be cleaned, 20% off, and then you run that.
We're number 2 at cleaning up. One organization leading the protest said the demonstrations will remain complete as long as the government does not provide French agriculture with all the means allowing it to be fully involved in the food, energy, and environmental issues of the future. I think that means that the protest will continue.
Right.
Until morale improves.
Right, yeah, the beatings will continue. The Netherlands has been rocked by similar protests in recent years against limits on nitrogen emissions that would have led to the shutdown of thousands of farms.
Well, you know how you get the rest of the folks, the rest of the population involved in these protests is you have every farmer do this, get arrested, and then they can't farm. And then when the food stops, then the pitchforks and torches will come out on these government buildings. Arrest them, put them in jail, shut down the farms, see what happens. But I think that's kind of their goal, is to create this anarchy.
Go!
No.
Sorry, we're talking about Europe. I just had to do a goal.
Sounds like Latin America to me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. It is. Man, I was actually. This is totally off topic. I was watching.
You can change the topic.
I know, that's what I'm doing. Like Whiplash segue.
Yeah,
too.
you don't
Just
have to call in.
I was watching a pirated stream of an NFL broadcast.
Ooh.
And I just so happened to get the Mexican version.
It was pirated. It wasn't SAP? Because I've done some Spanish stuff. for
I mean,
NFL.
so it was really weird because they say everything in the Spanish accent,
right?
Except for the names of the players,
right?
Right? You know, so, Joe Flacco, you know, that kind of a thing, right? And I was just like, wow, this is weird. And then when they score a touchdown or they kick a field goal, they do the shortened version, but they're like, go! Right? And I was like, wow, that's.
Yeah, the Spanish announcers really, from working in international television, they are just so much more alive in their commentary.
Yeah, their energy.
It's just from the beginning of the game to the last, saying goodbye.
Like something is taught, at least in the, I've taken a couple of different voiceover classes, and I've done, some voice work and that kind of a thing. What they teach in these classes is for you to be not any of that. You don't want to be too emotional in your speaking when you're doing this type of work. In fact, you want to sound indifferent for at least for the U.S. audience,
right?
When you're doing these
don't
types
offend
of things,
anyone.
Because you don't want to. I really like that voice, or like, no, I really don't like that voice, right? You don't want to. You want to be very neutral.
It's very
you want
subjective.
to be sort of. You don't want to be monotonous or monotone, right? You want to have some inflection in your voice, but you want to keep it very, a very short box of that.
Right.
And I'm not. Like, I've done plenty of voiceovers and stuff, but like my enthusiasm just sort of rings through.
Yeah, you don't want to be NPR,
right. Right.
Well, I would think that if you were doing the voiceover for the radio for, say, the official channel of the Tampa Bay Rays, right? Like at that point, you can be excited about it. But whereas if you're doing ABC's, voiceover, their
The
commentary,
SAP,
then you have to be, not pick a side. It would be my guess. I don't know. I mean, I haven't. I just happened to end up behind a microphone. I never took any training for it.
Yeah, but you have something. I think they. What do they call it in the industry, Mark? Talent.
Talent.
I think my talent was disagreeing with Ian.
I mean, that's still a talent.
It's very narrow, especially when your business partner's in prison.
Well, I don't tend to argue with you very much. Occasionally, we disagree on something. But we usually we say our piece and then okay, well, that's what it is.
Agree to disagree.
Yeah, we don't really argue.
You got to bring it back from the break and then mischaracterize my statement and then argue against that.
Oh, I see. Yeah, this is where I'm lacking, right? This is where your training has definitely fallen short, Mark. You haven't trained me on the ways to do that.
That's training for Ian.
You just sort of let me go about my business however I want, and this is what happened.
It's unique.
And we gave you another night to do it.
You did. It's true. Do we dare do a double flush?
2 number 2 stories?
Do we dare, Mark?
Wow.
I'd say Full House.
Upper Deck. Let's go.
All right.
Did we finish that?
We
that
did.
story?
Yeah, that was the end
it's
of
flushed.
that one.
Okay.
Let's go to our second number 2 story.
Wow.
Of the night. We usually
it's a big one.
Yeah, it's a big. Did you get that package? It's a big one.
The puns.
I think the delivery man went around back and dropped it off the pool.
Yeah, he used the back door.
No.
To make his delivery. This from nypost.com under the topic of sex and relationships.
Come on.
My ex refused to give me toilet paper when I needed it, so I dumped him.
Yeah, I saw this one. It seems so strange. I didn't read the story, though.
What a poopy reason to get dumped. The article begins. Some ill-fated relationships go swirling down the drain after one or both partners cheat. Some hit the skids when the lover gets tangled in a lie. Off topic, or at least not in the article. Steve, I hear you have race car underwear. You know, the kind with the skid marks.
Yeah. Did you hear that? Listen again.
But these 2 particular sweeties, the article continues, went stinky over a roll of bathroom tissue and an incredibly crappy attitude. I had to end it. Just kept thinking about how this isn't the last time I'm going to run out of toilet paper, Jess Jacobson told the Post on Monday. When I think of my future self-stranded on the toilet, he's not the person.
When he thinks of his future, comma.
Oh, they missed.
Yeah, missed a comma or a parenthesis.
No, I think my future self, comma, stranded on the toilet, comma.
Yeah, okay.
He's not the person I want to be there to ask for help. I deserve more. Toilet paper especially. So this is somebody complaining about their significant other.
Refusing to give them toilet paper while they sat on the john.
The scorned sweetheart from Los Angeles spilled her guts to more than 11.5 million TikTok viewers last week. I'm breaking up with the guy I'm dating because of what he did to me when I was on the toilet the other day. Jacobson began her unbelievable TikTok.
Attention-grabbing headline.
Yeah, right.
It's all clickbait. The TikTok stuff, right? Like, I got to become internet famous.
Yeah.
14 minutes and counting.
So I'm at his house, continued the blonde. I sit down to take a poop. I go to wipe, and there's no toilet paper. Naturally, Jacobson yelled out to her then honey, asking him to hand her a spool of TP from his first-floor commode. A simple request that the nameless numbskull allegedly refused to fulfill. He said no.
One wonders why.
But I mean, if you're going to the bathroom and you got to do that, it's almost like getting in a car and like, I don't have any gasoline. Like, make sure you have gasoline before you're going somewhere.
Like, I have had this happen in my own house where I did not I have one of these like standalone toilet paper roll holder things that holds like 3 rolls
on the bottom plus
the one that's in there. And once upon a time, I neglected to refill the thing.
Yeah, you're down to 1. Like, I'll remember.
And I didn't. And then, I wake up and I go to do my morning constitution, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And, no toilet paper. Now, normally I have like a box of Kleenex or, something, but like I didn't at the time. I had
Newspaper,
I had to get up and walk over to the closet and get a fresh roll and come back and then take care of the business, right? And it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't that big a deal.
But you didn't have anyone to shout out to.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm wondering what this particular person would have done in that situation, right? Would she have broke up with herself, right? Would she have committed suicide? Would she have just stayed on the toilet until somebody showed up?
911, I'm stuck on the toilet. Please.
Oh, my gosh. Ma'am, this is an emergency.
Call 912. Okay, please.
912. He said, "No, I already told you that bathroom you're using is out of toilet paper. Sorry," she recalled. So apparently he had told her twice that bathroom was out of toilet paper.
It was the number 2 time he told her.
Definitely. And despite the Gen Zers' repeated pleas for help, Jacobson claims her anti-hero left her high and not so dry. With S in my A, I explained to him that he's my only option, she carried on. I can't walk downstairs and get the toilet paper. That's not true. You probably could have. It would have been messy, but you could have done it. Tensions continued mounting between the troubled twosome. Reaching a fever pitch when Jacobson began screaming for help at the top of her lungs, hoping a neighbor might respond to her distress.
Wow.
I'd like to hear his side of this story because I feel like I'm getting only one ply.
Yeah, the story seems perforated. Finally, he's like, fine, I'll go get the toilet paper. What the you're so FCCing dramatic.
Yeah. Right, that's it.
Yeah. By the way, Mark, if you haven't been listening, I've reverted to using FCC as a substitute cuss word.
I think it's great.
So feel free to use it yourself if you like.
You know, it's been since the Bush administration that they went after anybody for what they said on the radio, and like there hasn't been any guidance about this in a very long time.
Sure.
One kind of wonders. Now, I'm of the opinion that using cuss words in a news talk show would be unprofessional. However, if you're reporting on what was said, that's might be a different story. That there might be
that's fair use of a quote from for the news story.
Yeah.
Like if you were to play that as an audio clip, here's the interview with the woman on the toilet, and she was swearing. I guess you have to bleep it out. But if I didn't swear. I wasn't swearing.
If the AP reported this news on the internet, where a lot of people, a good percentage of the American population, maybe even the majority of the American population gets its news. If the AP reported this and they chose to use some of those words, then why would the radio not be able to do it? Now, again, there's been no guidance, and I can tell you that the gentlemen that run the radio stations, the 200 radio stations we're on, would probably not appreciate us pushing the boundaries of this particular issue. But one of the reasons that radio is dying, ladies and gentlemen, is because we can't compete in so many ways with the internet.
Right.
We can't say anything. Now we can go on and we can joke, get rather jocular about number 2 here, but we can't go and actually say what was said in this.
Now,
I'm going to use air quotes here. News story.
In the article itself,
did they bleep it out? Like,
it's
blank,
what
blank?
the F-K ? You're so F-King dramatic. She said.
So they self-censored.
They censor it here as well.
Fine by me.
My take on it is I'm a freedom of speech absolutist. And so I believe people should be free to say whatever the FCC they want. And I also think it's goddamn ridiculous that several government agencies, the FCC, the FAA, and NASA, all claim to own air.
They own space.
Air specifically,
right? Because
the atmosphere.
The guy from Canada who sent the rocket up and took a picture of space.
Well, I think the EPA also claims to own the air as well.
Oh,
so at any rate, the traumatizing incident left her feeling like number 2. She confessed, "That's actually one of the craziest things anyone's ever done to me." Well, she hasn't lived life if that's one of the craziest things. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming your way.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here,
I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world. So I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here. And I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The White House has announced that U.S. President Joe Biden will meet Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington on Tuesday. In a statement, the White House said the visit is intended to underscore the United States' unshakable commitment to supporting the people of Ukraine. The visit comes with the U.S. Congress at an impasse over releasing an additional $61 billion in military aid to Kyiv. Donald Trump says he won't testify again at his fraud trial, where he's facing charges of inflating the value of his properties. It's a change of course for the former president, who earlier had planned to appear in the New York court on Monday as the trial nears its conclusion. In a pair of all-caps posts written on his Truth social media platform, Trump said that he had already testified successfully and conclusively and called the trial a witch hunt. New York's Attorney General has asked that Trump be fined $250 million and lose his New York business licenses over charges that he intentionally overstated the value of his assets. The former president, who despite his legal problems is the frontrunner to win the Republican presidential nomination, is also facing separate criminal charges over alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election results and mishandling classified documents. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he believes Israel does not want to harm Palestinian civilians, but also should do more to avoid civilian casualties and allow humanitarian aid.
There needs to be a premium put on protecting civilians and making sure that humanitarian assistance can get to everyone who needs it.
Speaking on CNN's State of the Union, Blinken acknowledged that Israel needs to protect itself from more Hamas attacks, but emphasized that Israeli military operations are designed around civilian protection. The Hamas-controlled Gaza Health Ministry says around 18,000 Palestinians have been killed in the war so far. On Friday, the U.S. vetoed a resolution at the UN Security Council which called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. FSN's Jody Jacobs has more.
The U.S. Deputy Ambassador to the UN, Robert Hood, says while it supports durable peace in which both Israel and Palestine can live side by side, it cannot support calls for an immediate ceasefire. This, he says, because Hamas has no desire for peace or to see a two-state solution. 13 UN Security Council members voted yes, the United Kingdom abstained, and the United States vetoed the vote. The United Arab Emirates, who tabled the resolution, says it's disappointed by the outcome, but says this will not deter it and many other member states from continuing to implore council members to act and bring the violence in Gaza to an end.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
I can see Mark laughing at us. Yes, it is.
And we're back.
Oh, yeah, we're back. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Steve. I was thrown off by the meowing.
That was the meow mix.
It's
Meow Mix commercial. That's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Meow
Speaking
Mix.
of commercials, after the last segment, we probably should have had a bidet advertiser on.
If you have a product related to number 2 and would like to advertise in Free Talk Live, please send an email to mark@freetalklive.com.
Hey, maybe we can get some free toilet paper. We'll trade you.
Oh, man. One of my bands. This is Free Talk Live, by the way, in case anybody's wondering.
Number 2 Talk Live.
We are doing the second number 2 story. of the night.
It's a double flush.
It's a double flush Sunday. It's only in celebration of Mark Edge being on the show. This in no way is reflective of our opinion of Mark as a host or co-host. Although he seems to wipe the floor with us as a talent.
Oh, yes.
I wanted to say that once upon a time, I was in a band, and we had a song that was a bit political, right? Or anti-political, right? Basically yelling at the man.
Oh, yeah.
Sort of anarchic,
Kind of like
if you
the
will.
French farmers.
Kind of, yeah.
Music, yeah.
It was just like, screw the man, screw the government, this stuff sucks, that kind of a thing. Yep. Mark, you're making noise over there.
You okay?
Not sure what's going on.
He dropped his microphone.
Sorry.
He did drop his microphone, actually.
It's a mic drop.
Mark Edge is so good, ladies and gentlemen, that you can't see him, but I can tell you, I can see on the screen in the room that he's at, he is sitting in front of a map of the Earth.
It's flat.
It is flat. The map, that is. But he also has 2 microphones in front of him. He's so good, the man needs 2 microphones. So there you go.
And he has one here in the studio.
Anyway, my story is I'm in this band, we're playing this thing and the show, and you got to do something to make the show memorable, right? For everybody, make it a personalized experience for the audience, so that they remember not only you as a band, but the time that they had. Oh yeah, remember that time we went to the show and that thing happened? Yeah, that was an awesome thing.
I was there. Yeah.
The thing that we did is we managed to acquire toilet paper rolls with dollar bills and presidents.
Cool.
Right? So different, one toilet paper roll would be rolling out dollar bills. One would be rolling out pictures of Obama.
Oh,
right. One toilet paper roll would have Bush or whatever, or Trump or whatever, presidents on them. And so at the crescendo of the song, the singer just sort of reaches down into this, Tupperware bucket, kind of a thing, and just starts toilet paper in the crowd with these rolls of toilet paper. And that was our thing that we did. So
that's great.
It's somewhat related to our number 2 story because it's toilet paper. So there you have it.
You could be over there in France with those farmers.
France. No, the French use bidets, don't they?
Oh, right. That's
So.
Okay.
This article about this breakup.
By the way, having just been in France, they have both in the bathroom, so you can,
I'm curious, Mark. Is there a place in France where the naked ladies dance?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
I'm sure.
All
I'm
right.
sure there is.
All right. I'm looking for confirmation of this fictitious entity that does it exist in real life. Anyway, this story about this breakup over toilet paper just has a little bit more to it. Supporters encouraged the porcelain princess to not waste her time fretting over the doo-doo-headed dude who wouldn't bring her a roll of toilet paper.
Supporters. She has supporters.
He clear as day showed that when you're vulnerable, sick, or something is inconvenient to him, he's not going to be there for you. Run, urged a concerned commenter. That's a relationship breaker. Another one wrote, that's crimson red of all the flags. First signs of an abuser. Oh, gosh. So if Jacobson heeded the devious advice about swiping the dope's linens and paper products, she wouldn't be the first woman to exact cruel revenge on a deserving ex.
I wonder how long this took. What the gentleman's point appeared to be, according to the woman who's making this, telling the story, is that he had told her on 2 occasions not to use that particular bathroom. And that, trying to send his point home that, hey, you should listen to what I say, as opposed to just doing what you want and expecting me to clean up the mess. Now, I agree that leaving her sitting there maybe for a half an hour sounds, outlandish, but 2 minutes, I don't know.
Right.
I mean, is she just the kind of drama queen that began yelling for help? I have no clue.
Well, either way, I'm sure that story ended with a flush. So let's go to some of your calls and thoughts here on Free Talk Live. We have Major Payne calling from Michigan. Major, you're on Free Talk Live with Mark, Steve, and the captain.
Good evening, guys. Yeah, Mark kind of half stole my thunder. The easiest way out of this for this young lady was you just do the hillbilly bidet. You flush down the load you made. Then you got a fresh bowl of water, and you just splash a little bit and clean your butt.
Well, that does sound like a hillbilly bidet.
Yeah, it is.
I
But,
thought
oh, that,
I thought the hillbilly bidet was going outside and taking the garden hose.
well, that would be extreme, I guess. And you'd have to have a garden hose and inside plumbing and all that. And some hillbillies just don't have that.
Maybe I'm thinking of the
Anyway,
hillbilly
you guys were
enema.
talking about the New Hampshire hillbillies a while back.
Yeah.
And,
West Coast.
Just an interesting little bit of trivia. In the old Noah Webster dictionary, a hillbilly was a northern Michigan dirt farmer.
A
Not
dirt
Kentucky,
farmer?
Tennessee. Yeah, go figure.
Okay, let's define dirt farmer here, because I've never known anyone to make money at having a field of dirt.
Well, that's just how Noah wrote it up in the book.
Oh, okay.
You don't.
I'm
What else
interested.
can you farm?
Are there a
They
lot
did-
of
they did-
Are there a
they
lot of
did have
hills in
hydroponics
Michigan?
back then.
Well,
What's that?
Mark was
Are there
asking.
a lot of hills?
No, but the people that moved up to the northern part of Michigan were a bit of a rough breed at the time. It was still Indian territory till almost 1878 or something.
Well, and I know the Upper Peninsula of Michigan does at least have one mountain. I'm familiar with Iron Mountain, and I can only assume that there are hills surrounding that mountain. It's very rare for just a mountain to be there without more of them.
There's a range going all the way up to Keweenaw Peninsula. It's called the Porcupine Mountains.
Oh, weird. Huh. All right.
Oh, I got one for you, Captain. You know how you aren't particularly fond of voting and all that.
Yep.
A guy actually won an election by one vote. It was just for like a city council seat or school board or something. I think it was out in Oregon or Washington.
He won by like.
The real ironic part about it is he voted for himself in the election, right?
Uh-huh.
Well, his competitor didn't vote for himself.
I thought he won by one vote. Like there was only one vote. He won 1-0. He just
No, but if his competitor had voted for himself, it would have been a tie.
tie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, we've said for a long time here on Free Talk Live that for voting to have an effect, the best chance for that is to do it locally, right? In your own town, right? Your own community, that type of thing. That's where your vote is going to carry
The most weight.
Any weight, really,
Right.
at all.
Right.
If you're voting for a president, your vote is statistically irrelevant 100% of the time.
Popularity content.
Right. This is one of the critiques of the Free State Project. Well, if the Free State Project is successful, why do they keep on voting for Obama and sending statists to Washington? Because that's where we like our statists.
Right. Keep them out of the state.
we would prefer them to leave.
We got to put them somewhere.
Yeah.
But the reality is, here's the real situation is that the Free State Project has moved maybe at the outside 10,000 libertarians to the state of New Hampshire. This is the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And those 10,000 people in a state of 1.4 million clearly aren't going to make the biggest difference on who they vote for in a statewide election. And so that's not an excellent way to figure it out, because our voters are just like your voters. Our voters care the most about the presidency and care a little bit care quite a bit less about the Senate and the House and things like that, to the point that they, like the people in your town, can't name their county commissioners and can't name their city councilors. And that is the area where the Free State Project focuses. They focus on the House seats and what we call the general court in New Hampshire, the state Senate seats. How many of the people listening to me right now, as a percentage, can name their state senator, their state house representative?
1%.
My guess is, my guess is 1%. And I can't name it here in the district I'm in Florida, and don't care to learn. Not gonna go look it up because I just don't care. But it's the same way there. And so the Free Staters have essentially used this in order to get, I think the Free State Project has something like 50 butts in seats in the 400 seats in the New Hampshire House. And of the New Hampshire Liberty Alliance has rated at B plus or above more than about 125 people. That is like close to a third of the New Hampshire House, and that's a pretty functional libertarian veto. Nothing gets through as to law without either both the Republicans and the Democrats, or the Republicans and the Libertarians. And I don't mean libertarian as a political party. I mean libertarian as a philosophy, because they run as Democrats and they run as
Republicans.
Republicans. Thank you. So that's really effective. I believe in the future that New Hampshire is going to be as free as a state of the United States can be, which is to say, not free, but as free as a state can be.
The best case scenario. Right.
Major?
Yep.
Well, I got nothing more on the election things, but
what else you got?
I was thinking about, how Venezuela's trying to take over poor little New Guinea. Well, it used to be French New Guinea.
Guyana?
I guess they just call it Guinea now or something.
Okay.
French Guiana? I think.
Guyana, yeah, French Guiana. It's just on the northern border of Venezuela, and they just discovered a massive oil pocket there. And
must be terrorists underneath that oil, around that oil.
For 178 years, and Venezuela is just trying to take it over. So they got the militaries bristling on the Brazilian border and also on the New Guinea border.
So it's Guyana.
I think it's French Guyana. Yeah.
Yep. It's Guyana, which is in the middle is Suriname, and then over to the east of Guyana is French Guiana. And so Guyana sits on the east of Venezuela. It has recently, and Guyana's northern coast has been found this very large, at least for this small country, oil reserve. And strange, Venezuela has now resurrected, a centuries-old complaint that they didn't get this particular area. I can't remember what it's called, but it's been in the news, and it's about 2/3 of Guyana's total land. Now, as I recall, most of the population lives to the east, but one of the things that Venezuela voted for, which is, I think, very, very interesting, is that they're offering citizenship to any Guyanese who wants it. Now, presumably, like most places in the world, Guyana allows their citizens to have dual citizenship. And believe me, the United States does, even though they say they don't. And so you could have two passports. Now, not that the Venezuelan passport is a particularly valuable one, but the free passport that you can get, you should always get it.
Right.
Yeah. Amen to that.
And I'll tell you why. Although it doesn't seem like it's particularly useful, it wasn't too long ago when you went to the U.S.-Mexico border, and unless you had a Mexican residency or a Mexican citizenship, you couldn't get across it. And, they had stopped all travel.
Yeah, it doesn't work the other way. The other way around.
But at this point, there's more Mexicans going home than they are staying in the US.
Right. Now, if they're offered this passport for Venezuela, and they have dual citizenship, if they incentivize this enough, they won't have to take over the country. Everyone will just be Venezuelan.
Well, right? the issue is that the people in Caracas want the revenue from that oil.
Right.
And ExxonMobil has made a deal with the people in Georgetown. And so the politicians in Georgetown want to keep that oil. And that's really what nobody wants to serve the citizens of a country better, especially this is, Venezuela. I mean, who wants that passport?
Right. Citgo is the national, the oil, I don't know what you call it. Nationalized oil is Citgo,
yeah.
I believe, in Venezuela.
Yep, I would agree. And it's like the Argentinians talking about the Falklands or the Maldives, depending on Malvinas, the Malvinas, depending on where you're from. They've been complaining about this since we were kids, Captain. Do you remember the war?
The Falkland Islands? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's right, Steve.
That was a British.
You're older than I am. Yeah. It's this was a conflict, and for whatever reason, the dictators that were in charge of Buenos Aires at the time wanted to misdirect people from the things that they're doing there. So they thought, we'll just go take back those islands that belong to us. And they went over there. There was a referendum. Do you want to be part of Argentina, or do you want to be part of the British Empire? And it was like 98% of the people of the Falklands voted they wanted to be part of Britain because, pick between them: a government that goes bankrupt every 3 decades, or one that doesn't.
That's the referendum we need here in New Hampshire.
I thought it was because of the food.
Oh,
they were like, yeah, we got to get some of that, bland and left out room temperature food. Britons.
I saw a tweet.
Beer.
It was funny. It was asking if British food is really bad, and the response was, if prepared properly, yes.
Major, any other thoughts tonight?
No, well, that kind of answers one of my questions: is why wasn't like with what's going on over in Israel right now? They send over 2 fleets of battleships and aircraft carriers, but nobody seems to be raising a hand to help this poor little country. So it doesn't surprise me that Big Oil's behind it again somehow or another.
Yeah. All right. Hey, Major, thank you so much for the call. We appreciate you, man. 603-283-6160.
The Biden administration is sitting there praying that Venezuela does something and that they can send one U.S. naval ship out there, scare the bejesus out of the Venezuelan army, and send them back over the border so that Biden then gets a war and can get a little bump from being tough guy Joe.
Yeah.
I don't even think that would register because the dude is just
he's a number two. He's a number 2 story.
Beyond senile. I mean, the statements that he makes are just like
the Elton John
how
thing
did
last week.
anybody even for a minute go, yeah, I'm behind this guy?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Well, at this point, he's had his lowest ratings yet. He's at 37%, and
it's surprisingly high in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, 33% of the I've always said 40%. 40% of the American population would vote for Stalin if he ran Democrat, or Hitler if he ran Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the 20% in between that make up the difference.
I think that they should, instead of sending battleships, they should send ships filled with many copies of the tabletop game Battleship.
Just pass those out.
Well,
H6, you sank my battleship. Maybe that's how wars should be fought, right?
And I advocate for it over and over again that the chief executive of any given country must, if he, instead of attacking the country and killing innocents, just challenge to a duel with short swords and bucklers the chief executive of the other country. Let them fight it out. Well, I mean, I'll get some stadium room there in San Pedro Sula, and we'll have a
a pay-per-view event with that. Would be huge.
Right.
Well,
right.
So the thing is, we know that these tyrants, presidents, dictators, that type of a thing, these quote leaders of countries,
officials.
unquote officials,
Government officials.
We know that they don't have any balls because if they did, they would go fight wars themselves. Right. So I'm taking your idea, Mark, with the duel, but I'm reducing the balls needed to participate, and instead of swords or the duel with the quick draw of the guns, Old West style or whatever, I'm proposing a tabletop board game known as Battleship. Right. Imagine like Zelensky and Biden, sitting down to a duel. It's all very produced, like the online poker tournaments and all that stuff. They got cameras and they got announcers and like bold move, Cotton.
Oh, but it would have to be electronic Battleship with the sound effects, though.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
My solution would rid the world of one chief executive every time.
Oh, you have a point there.
Verizon versus AT&T.
Yep. So we talk a lot here on Free Talk Live about liberty.
And number 2?
Well, that's only on Sundays.
On Sundays,
yeah. This next story is from Libertyville, Illinois.
Oh, cool.
Right? That was only for the segue. There's no more relevance to that at all.
Okay.
That was just the segue. This from Chicago's very own WGN 9. Parents sue Volkswagen following carjacking and kidnapping of toddler in Libertyville. The parents
Volkswagen.
They're suing Volkswagen
for the kidnapping
after their car
Carjacking.
was carjacked and their toddler was kidnapped. The parents of a toddler who was kidnapped during a carjacking are suing the automaker Volkswagen. Attorneys for the family claim Volkswagen refused to assist authorities in tracking the car until payment of their tracking system was paid and activated. This is the argument that a lot of non-libertarians or statists make about the free market. Oh, so when your house catches on fire, nobody's going to put it out unless you've paid? Right?
Well, that's like AAA. I mean, if you did have police on demand and you didn't subscribe to the police service and you wanted the police and you called 911 or 912, they show up, they give you a bill.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, if you don't have the service,
I mean, you
gotta pay
are
for the service.
paying for it one way or another, right? It's
Right.
just that I would prefer the market price versus the government price, because the government price is always bloated. It's always way too much.
Yeah.
And people who don't want or need the service are forced to pay for it.
Right. But you could have AAA, or you could just drive without AAA. And if you get into if you're stuck on the side of the road, you call them and they say, do you have a subscription? Or are you a member? You
You're
say
like,
no.
nope. They're like, will that be Visa or MasterCard?
Right. So they'll give you the membership right there for the $100-something dollars.
Yeah, yeah.
And now
And
you
you're on your
pay.
way.
Now you're on your way.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've never considered that.
So you don't have
Then
to
again,
have
I've had the gold membership for a very long time.
RV service. That's what I've had.
No, my birth mom used to buy me AAA every year for my birthday and just renew it continuously.
Oh, it's a little peace of mind, though.
until she passed away, and then I just never renewed it myself.
Did you ever get stuck?
Well, I have roadside assistance through my car insurance now, so it's
kind of like it.
Yeah, it's. I've only had to use it one time, so it's fine. Attorneys for the family claim that Volkswagen refused to assist in tracking the car until payment of their tracking system was made. The incident happened last February in the 16,000 block of Route 137 in unincorporated Libertyville.
Oh, wow. Unincorporated?
When Taylor Shepard, who was pregnant at the time, was returning home. This is a real-life miracle baby, Noah, who I was pregnant with when all this happened, Shepard said. According to Shepard, when she went to retrieve her 2-year-old son from the car, an assailant pulled up behind her 2021 Volkswagen Atlas, assaulted her, and knocked her to the ground. According to the lawsuit, the assailant then stole the Volkswagen Atlas with the 2-year-old boy inside and fled, running over Shepard and causing serious injuries to her extremities and her pelvis.
Ouch. She
She immediately called 911, and the first responders arrived at the scene shortly after. We'll find out more about what happened to Mrs. Shepard, the stolen Volkswagen, and the 2-year-old coming up here on Free Talk Live. If you want to join us, the telephone number is 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live coming up with Mark Edge, Steve Classic, and the Captain.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market.
Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The White House has announced that U.S. President Joe Biden will meet Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington on Tuesday. In a statement, the White House said the visit is intended to underscore the United States' unshakable commitment to supporting the people of Ukraine. The visit comes with the U.S. Congress at an impasse over releasing an additional $61 billion in military aid to Kyiv. Donald Trump says he won't testify again at his fraud trial, where he's facing charges of inflating the value of his properties. It's a change of course for the former president, who earlier had planned to appear in the New York court on Monday as the trial nears its conclusion. In a pair of all-caps posts written on his Truth social media platform, Trump said that he had already testified successfully and conclusively and called the trial a witch hunt. New York's Attorney General has asked that Trump be fined $250 million and lose his New York business licenses over charges that he intentionally overstated the value of his assets. The former president, who despite his legal problems is the frontrunner to win the Republican presidential nomination, is also facing separate criminal charges over alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election results and mishandling classified documents. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he believes Israel does not want to harm Palestinian civilians, but also should do more to avoid civilian casualties and allow humanitarian aid.
There needs to be a premium put on protecting civilians and making sure that humanitarian assistance can get to everyone who needs it.
Speaking on CNN's State of the Union, Blinken acknowledged that Israel needs to protect itself from more Hamas attacks, but emphasized that Israeli military operations are designed around civilian protection. The Hamas-controlled Gaza Health Ministry says around 18,000 Palestinians have been killed in the war so far. On Friday, the U.S. vetoed a resolution at the UN Security Council which called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. FSN's Jody Jacobs has more.
The U.S. Deputy Ambassador to the UN, Robert Hood, says while it supports durable peace in which both Israel and Palestine can live side by side, it cannot support calls for an immediate ceasefire. This, he says, because Hamas has no desire for peace or to see a two-state solution. 13 UN Security Council members voted yes, the United Kingdom abstained, and the United States vetoed the vote. The United Arab Emirates, who tabled the resolution, says it's disappointed by the outcome, but says this will not deter it and many other member states from continuing to implore council members to act and bring the violence in Gaza to an end.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking in detail today at the arrest this week of a former senior U.S. diplomat who has been charged with spying for Cuba. Manuel Rocha is a former U.S. ambassador to Bolivia. He was arrested last week at the age of 73, long after his State Department career came to an end. Quite how investigators learnt that during his years as a diplomat, he was allegedly actively disclosing the nation's secrets to the Cuban government is unclear. Bob McMahon is with America's Council on Foreign Relations.
We still don't know the extent to which he provided damaging information to Cuba, but I think it's going to be quite something when this emerges. He was indicted by a federal grand jury in Miami on 15 counts, included charges that he acted as an illegal agent of a foreign government, wire fraud as part of an alleged scheme to, quote, act as a clandestine agent of Cuba and harm the interests of the United States. So there's a great deal of concern about just how much he knew and how much he shared with Cuba and how many people were damaged by it and policies affected and so forth. But he was apparently an unwavering ally of Cuba, an agent of Cuba. And it's just kind of stunning to have something like this come to light.
The FBI's investigation of Rocha only began last year. He was arrested after a sting operation in which investigators, posing as Cuban intelligence officials, met him in Miami, and he allegedly bragged about the importance of what he had done. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
The main news again. Joe Biden will meet Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington on Tuesday as a standoff over funding in the U.S. Congress continues. Donald Trump says he won't testify again at his fraud trial, and the U.S. Secretary of State says he believes Israel does not want to harm Palestinian civilians, but also should do more to avoid civilian casualties. That is the latest feature story news. Ira Spitzer reporting.
It's the Onion Radio News. An area man doesn't know what to do with all the extra ketchup packets. This is Doyle Redland reporting. After finishing his Big Bacon Classic combo, Erie, Pennsylvania resident and Wendy's patron Don Turnby, 38, expressed uncertainty today regarding what to do with all the extra ketchup packets. Turnby had asked for extra ketchup upon placing his order for a ketchup-necessitating Biggie fries.
Well, I knew it was too many ketchups because I usually only need 3 or 4 for my Biggie fries, but I just took them anyway.
At his nearby home, the Turnby pantry is crammed with hundreds of other restaurant condiments, including single-serving packets of Taco Bell mild sauce, Arby's horsey sauce, soy sauce, McDonald's Chicken McNuggets hot mustard sauce, pats of shed spread country crock from Ponderosa Steakhouse, and a selection of Smucker's jellies and jams from several area diners. Doyle Redland for the Onion Radio News, online at theonion.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com. Free Talk Live.
You're back. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this Sunday night edition of Free Talk Live. We're a live call-in radio program where you can take control of the airwaves.
Please do.
Talk about whatever is on your mind. The telephone number, if you would like to join us, is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's
Steve Classic
and
Mark Edge.
And I am your host, the Reverend Captain Kickass. Before we go on with tonight's show, I want to say thank you to Steve Smith. Steve Smith is an amplifier for Free Talk Live. What on earth does that mean?
Amps.
Well, it means Steve enjoys the program. He enjoys the hosts, the co-hosts, the topics, the content, the listeners, the callers.
Callers, yeah.
He enjoys the message of freedom that we bring to the air. We are unique in this particular market where we are the only libertarian-themed call-in radio talk show that I'm aware of, unless that's changed, Mark. Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah. So he thinks it's worth $5 a month because he's a silver level amplifier. We only ask for $5. You can give more if you like. Over at amps.freetalklive.com. It's a bit of a Patreon type setup, so you get some little perks, some little benefits if you do amplify. AMPS stands for Advertise, Marketing, Promoting, and Supporting. And so amps.freetalklive.com is the site you need to go to if you want to join Steve Smith in becoming an amplifier. We're on, Mark, you said around 180, 200 radio stations.
Thereabouts.
Yep. We could be on 250, 300 radio stations. Not out of the question. It's all up to you. Please consider becoming an amplifier by visiting amps.freetalklive.com. Thank you again, Steve Smith. We appreciate you.
And if you distribute toilet paper and you want to sponsor the number 2 story on Sunday nights, contact Mark.
Mark at freetalklive.com.
Yes, indeed.
So we were talking about this article from WGNTV.com out of Chicago, where in Libertyville, Illinois, the parents of a toddler are suing Volkswagen because someone hijacked, knocked down the mother in a parking lot, knocked her down. The 2-year-old was in the car. They stole the car and ran over the mother. She lived, but she had injuries to her extremities and her pelvis. And then the police apparently got involved. According to Shepard, when she went to retrieve her 2-year-old son from the car, an assailant pulled up behind her and knocked her to the ground. According to the lawsuit, the assailant stole the Volkswagen with the 2-year-old inside, and that's when he ran her over. She called 911, and first responders arrived. The lawsuit claims a deputy from the Lake County Sheriff's Office contacted Volkswagen and requested GPS tracking location data and explained that it's extremely exigent, these circumstances, that the situation was life or death. However, the deputy was informed that the vehicle's free trial period for the CarNet services had expired and that a subscription of $150 was required before the location of the vehicle could be provided.
I think Volkswagen might be in the right, even though they should have said, yeah, we could do this as a life or death situation, but they have every right to say we can't do that.
Yeah, I think that they have the right to do it. I think that it was unwise of them to do it. That this would be one of those circumstances at the very least where they could avoid bad press, quite possibly have gotten some good press out of the deal. And, I don't think that anybody should be forced to give up their services for free, but I think it looks bad. Now, I would like to point out that there is not a lawsuit against the Libertyville County Sheriff's Department for allowing this to happen. Now, this taxpayer presumably pays some amount of money that goes to the Sheriff's Department every single month. And this terrible thing happened, and no one thought for a second, hey, maybe I should sue the cops for not providing protection for me, because that's what would be told is in the absence of a county funded sheriff's department, it would be anarchy. People would be getting their cars stolen all the time.
You mean chaos?
Well, here you are. The car got stolen, and the police could only call, ring, ring. Hey, profit-making auto manufacturer, why don't you give away your services for free so we can get this kid back? Well, why didn't you do your job in the first place and protect these people?
And also, too, since taxation is collected under duress, that is by force, by coercion, I am surprised that for these, how did they say, exigent circumstances, I'm surprised that they don't have something like a police department credit card,
or I would say
debit card, so that like why didn't if police are there to protect and serve, we know they're not, but let's just say that's what you think, right? Why wouldn't they have just busted out their wallet and been like, sure, here's $150, tell me where the damn car is,
right, on the county credit card, put it in the expense account or something like that. Yeah, well, they're complicit in the crime.
So anyway, the deputy was informed that, you cannot pass unless you've paid.
Right.
The family said the automaker's demand for payment and refusal to cooperate with police delayed the search for their abducted child and caused Shepard and her husband extreme emotional distress. The family remains in therapy over the incident, lawyers add. Now, I do want to say
we can run that bill up. One last comparison I'd like to make, and is that if, let's say you had a parking lot at a business, and you decided to pay for security at your parking lot, and then you got carjacked at the parking lot where you're trying to get in. Would you not be able to hold the security company liable for that situation? And if that's so, because I'm pretty sure you can, you certainly can hold them liable. If that is so, then are the police officers, in this case, Sheriff's Department, because I believe it's unincorporated Libertyville.
Right.
So it's the county of something. Lake County, I think they said.
Yes.
So it's Lake County Sheriff's Department. Are they not responsible for that entire area, just as the security guards would be for a parking lot? Have we not paid them to do this? And why is it that we, in our own minds, hold the security company in the parking lot responsible. We don't hold the police department responsible. Now, I'm not saying the police department is full of bad people. I think quite the opposite. But I don't think the security guards are a bunch of bad people either. I just think that if you do not hold people responsible for their behavior, you will get irresponsible behavior every single time, because that's how people work.
Yeah, the same comparison can be made for things like roads, right? That's always a common retort from the statist. Roads. For example, on my first attempt to leave Washington State and move to New Hampshire, I didn't make it. I hit black ice in eastern Washington and flipped my vehicle and, all that kind of good stuff. Now, I ended up getting a ticket from the state police there for driving with wheels off the roadway.
I'm speechless.
In my mind, that's flying, and like if anybody's going to find me, it should be like the FAA or something. Right?
They own space.
But so because they could, and the likelihood of me fighting that ticket was low because I was obviously packed up heading out of state. Right. That's the ticket I got. Now, I hit black ice on a road with which is paid for and to be maintained by tax money.
That means you.
So the road was obviously not in any condition to be driven upon. In theory, I should be able to hold the state, the road department, whatever that is, liable for not closing the road because it was dangerous, or not salting the road, or not de-icing the road, or some, because if they're responsible for making the road safe, when the road isn't safe, I should be able to hold them responsible. No?
Yeah, they're responsible for keeping it safe or unsafe in this case.
Well, that's why they gave you the ticket, so that they could make you responsible, not them.
So flipping back to the story now, the family here said the automaker's demand for payment and refusal to cooperate with police delayed the search for their abducted child and caused Shepard and her husband extreme emotional distress, and they remain in therapy. I want to say this about when you call some of these places, you do end up, your call ends up going to, and I'm assuming these things, I have no evidence of this, I'm assuming this call went into a call center.
Right.
And I'm assuming this call center was staffed with not customer service people, not 911 responders, but with salespeople, because this is generally what these corporations will do. And whoever the person was that they got, their paycheck probably depended on them making X amount of sales in a given time period, a week, a month, whatever it is.
And I'm assuming that they were not in a zip code in the United States. Just guessing.
Right. I'd be my guess too that these, we're trying
Offshore.
to sue Volkswagen for making a few bucks by having a Filipino, call center,
right? Yeah. And so
who doesn't have any ability to look this up without somebody having a membership.
Right.
Well, you got a membership or you don't have a membership.
Right.
How am I going to move this on?
Can we sell you a membership?
No one said what to do in the case of somebody having an abducted baby. Right.
That wasn't covered in their training. Right. Yeah. They didn't have a day on what to do when somebody calls because their car was hijacked with a kid in it.
Sell them a subscription. Half price.
So they probably put the police on hold and went and talked to their McManager or whatever and were like, hey, I got this call. They're like, yeah, you can look that up, but it won't unlock until they've paid the fee, right? There's probably some access thing there, is my guess, but I don't know any of this for a fact. It's not covered in the story.
Right. As soon as the payment clears, some electronic switch gets flipped and yeah.
And I don't want to, jinx old Volkswagen here, but I would say that the most likely outcome is that Volkswagen's lawyers look at this and say, Jawohl, Hans, who thought of this? Right? We're screwed here.
Yeah, somebody's probably losing their job.
They're like, well, we're going to send him a check because somebody start negotiating because this is what we got going on, and there's just nothing that can be done. They're gonna have to pay.
It sounds to me like when it comes to their general operations and customer service, Volkswagen has a bug in their system. Bug? Volkswagen Bug, Mark? No? Okay.
That's funny.
Yeah.
He says with like no emotion
that's
whatsoever.
funny.
That's funny. For what Isaiah has been through, this is Mrs. Shepard speaking. For what Isaiah has been through, I think this is the least I can fight for, she said, of the reason they're seeking monetary compensation. In a statement released last February, Volkswagen said it has a procedure in place with a third-party provider for CarNet support services to help with emergency requests from law enforcement. Unfortunately, in this instance, there was a serious breach of the process. Ha-ha.
The process.
Aha! So my theory is
so it's a third party that's doing their GPS tracking.
Right. And so they apparently have something in place for, if law enforcement calls, do this. And whoever they got through to didn't do that thing for whatever reason, or the phone tree rerouted them to a different place or whatever.
Right.
But now Volkswagen has to pay, not the company that's handling the thing. The Volkswagen has to go after them, and they're just going to shut down shop in the Philippines.
Right.
And that's that.
Move
Sorry,
somewhere.
I don't mean to go after the Philippines here, but there are a lot of call centers there.
There are. It's true. So that's where we're at. Apparently, pay your subscription.
Now, how would they know that it's the police department calling? This is so and so Sergeant blah blah blah.
I don't know enough about that to.
I've certainly gotten some calls myself from Sergeant whoever, right?
Yeah,
doing the same thing, and I'm like, prove it. Well,
right.
How do they prove it? They can't.
Well, my badge number. Well, I could make up a number too.
Yeah. What's your name right here?
Sergeant Stadenko.
Don't have any system for dealing with this.
Wow. They must have some code word or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Why don't I call the switchboard at the police department and you tell me your extension? I'll call you right back.
Yeah, that's probably
the best I got.
Right. We'll call you back.
Yeah. So there you have it. Volkswagen being sued.
Yep.
The people's car.
The people's car.
Isn't that the translation?
Volkswagen?
Yeah. People's.
I'm old. Steve, you're old. Mark, you're old. If I'm old, well, you're
getting
both
old.
Getting old.
This is the
the alternative.
It's the over 50 club here. I remember still to this day just how illegal marijuana was compared to what it is today, depending on the state you live in.
Yes.
Some places it's still completely illegal.
Like
other
New
places it's decriminalized in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So you can have it, you can smoke it. You can walk downtown Keene, New Hampshire, smoking a joint.
Just like everybody else does.
Yeah, nobody's going to do anything or say anything to you. It's fine.
It's decriminalized, but you still can't buy it.
Right. There's no what New Hampshire hasn't done is followed in the footsteps of all the other states who allow the state to dictate the way it is going to be sold. So New Hampshire has just said we're going to make it the lowest prosecutable offense. So meaning they're never going to prosecute. I mean, they can still write you a ticket for it, but the odds of you getting prosecuted for it are so
I always
low
know when
that,
I'm driving through Massachusetts, like behind a car. It's like, oh, I'm in Massachusetts. Just smell
Now, if I'm curious though, if you can't grow it in your backyard, then you can't really produce it. And so it's not legal to grow it in your backyard. Is that also the lowest prosecutable situation? Because marijuana doesn't fall out of the sky even in New Hampshire.
Sometimes it rolls up on shore. So I've been told.
I had that happen in Honduras, and I've got pictures to prove it.
So I've been told. But what I'm really getting at here is that over the course of time, the illegalness of marijuana has been reduced within the United States by a great deal.
Mm-hmm.
However, this from dailymail.co.uk, a California woman who stabbed boyfriend 108 times and killed him, is a do-gooding, mentally well girl who suffered weed-induced psychosis, according to psychiatrist testimony.
You knew it was coming.
Ooh, wow. All right.
So, Mark, which is the so psychology and psychiatry, which is the phony?
Well, neither are phony, but a psychiatrist can prescribe drugs. A psychologist talks to you about your problems.
All right. I just wanted to
talks to you about your prescription.
I just wanted to know which one we're doing. We're dealing with psychiatry here in this particular article. It is an unimaginably gruesome crime, an example of human violence at its most extreme. In May 2018, Bryn Spiker of Thousand Oaks, California, picked up a bread knife and stabbed her new boyfriend 108 times, killing him.
A dull bread knife, like a butter knife. No, bread knife.
Well, no, maybe it's like one of these.
Serrated?
It sounds appointed, and it's probably just serrated bread.
Wow.
It's like hard bread.
So Bryn, it's spelled Spejcher. I'm pronouncing it Spiker. It's probably wrong. She picked up a bread knife and stabbed her new boyfriend 108 times, killing him before turning the blade on her dog.
Whoa. That was some tough weed, huh?
The 32-year-old, who worked as an audiologist, then proceeded to stab herself, only stopping when police hit her 9 times with a baton.
Whoa.
Now,
that's psychosis, I think.
Now, I have smoked a bunch of weed in my life.
Just one bunch.
I've had edibles. I did
Drinkables.
I did a gravity bong in a bathtub with the gravity bong made out of one of those big blue 5-gallon jugs of water, like Culligan, style, And I thought I was going to pass out, and I had uncontrollable pot laugh for like a half hour. But
you probably had access to knives.
But I never once did I pick up a knife and try to stab somebody,
or
much
dog,
less
or yourself.
a dog or myself. Now,
I'm fine. Look, if they want to go ahead and say pot-induced psychosis, fine. The question I have is if a drunk driver is responsible for their actions of getting into a car and killing somebody, if a person who drinks a beer and then decides to go and shoot up a liquor store is responsible for their actions, is not this lady responsible for her actions?
Yeah, she was on pot.
Good question.
She chose to smoke the pot.
But it sounds like it might have been laced with something. Well, who knows? I don't know.
That's the
toxicology will.
That's the risk you take when you. I mean, any bottle of liquor. What if it's laced with something? So what? You're still responsible.
Right.
On Friday, Spiker was convicted of killing her boyfriend, Chad O'Melia, then 26, and is awaiting sentencing. However, testimony from an expert witness called by the prosecution, seen exclusively by DailyMail.com, paints a vastly different picture of the perpetrator than the story would initially suggest. Forensic psychiatrist and expert witness Dr. Chris Mohandy, he's got Handy as part of his last name, Dr. Chris Mohandy, told the jury last month that Spiker was a normal girl with no history of mental illness or violence, who was committed to doing good in the world. The fateful nights that her brain was completely overtaken by extreme psychosis, induced by potent marijuana that had been supplied by her boyfriend, he said.
Oh.
In testimony from Spiker herself, the healthcare professional said she'd smoked weed only a few times before and had never been high, quote unquote.
Now, this is in California, right?
California.
So do they have legalized pot sales that you can?
They do.
So we wonder, like, did the boyfriend buy it from the state or from the local dealer?
Right. Yeah. Did he get it from a street dealer or did he get it from a state sanctioned pot shop?
Right.
In testimony, no, we already covered that. Her attack was launched because she had, quote, lost touch with reality, unquote, as the cannabis had triggered voices in her head.
Voices in her head.
Okay. Now, again, I've smoked a lot of marijuana in my time. I partied. I played in bands. All that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And never once have I heard voices in my head as a result of marijuana.
I think it was probably, there must have been something else in that. I don't know what other drug would have been in there.
This sounds like PCP.
Oh.
Is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
But I'm wondering if the boyfriend gave it to the girlfriend to just like freak her out or something like that. And it went the wrong way.
We'll find out more about what happened here. Mark, did you have some?
Yes, certainly not. There's certainly no PCP laced pot that was bought legally.
We'll find out more about what happened in this story coming up here on Free Talk Live. The telephone number is 603-283-6160 if you would like to join us. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
If you're looking for work, you know the math. There are many more applicants than openings, so you need to stand out, not blend into the blah, blah, blah your interviewer is hearing from your competition. Here's a tip. In your interview, you will be judged more by the questions you ask than the answers you give. Yes, do anticipate the obvious job interview questions and prepare concise, insightful, glass-half-full sounding responses. And you should interview your interviewer. Seem genuinely curious about what will help get results. With money and attention so scarce now, effective communication skills have never been more important. You want to cut through the clutter. For more tips for job seekers and making all the other conversations you have more productive, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
From Feature Story News in San Francisco, I'm Ira Spitzer. The White House has announced that U.S. President Joe Biden will meet Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky in Washington on Tuesday. In a statement, the White House said the visit is intended to underscore the United States' unshakable commitment to supporting the people of Ukraine. The visit comes with the U.S. Congress at an impasse over releasing an additional $61 billion in military aid to Kyiv. Donald Trump says he won't testify again at his fraud trial, where he's facing charges of inflating the value of his properties. It's a change of course for the former president, who earlier had planned to appear in the New York court on Monday as the trial nears its conclusion. In a pair of all-caps posts written on his Truth social media platform, Trump said that he had already testified successfully and conclusively and called the trial a witch hunt. New York's Attorney General has asked that Trump be fined $250 million and lose his New York business licenses over charges that he intentionally overstated the value of his assets. The former president, who despite his legal problems is the frontrunner to win the Republican presidential nomination, is also facing separate criminal charges over alleged attempts to overturn the 2020 election results and mishandling classified documents. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says he believes Israel does not want to harm Palestinian civilians, but also should do more to avoid civilian casualties and allow humanitarian aid.
There needs to be a premium put on protecting civilians and making sure that humanitarian assistance can get to everyone who needs it.
Speaking on CNN's State of the Union, Blinken acknowledged that Israel needs to protect itself from more Hamas attacks, but emphasized that Israeli military operations are designed around civilian protection. The Hamas-controlled Gaza Health Ministry says around 18,000 Palestinians have been killed in the war so far. On Friday, the U.S. vetoed a resolution at the UN Security Council which called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. FSN's Jody Jacobs has more.
The U.S. Deputy Ambassador to the UN, Robert Hood, says while it supports durable peace in which both Israel and Palestine can live side by side, it cannot support calls for an immediate ceasefire. This, he says, because Hamas has no desire for peace or to see a two-state solution. 13 UN Security Council members voted yes, the United Kingdom abstained, and the United States vetoed the vote. The United Arab Emirates, who tabled the resolution, says it's disappointed by the outcome, but says this will not deter it and many other member states from continuing to implore council members to act and bring the violence in Gaza to an end.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
We're back.
We're back.
All right. Steve, I think they know.
Oh, and we're back.
I think if only there was some way we could let the listeners know
we're back.
when we were back. If there was some sort of rootiness thing that we could vamp on every time.
Some intro music and we just say,
we could make a song
back.
and dance out of it somehow.
And we're back.
If only there were some way for us to do that.
I'll come up with something by next week. We'll come up with something.
It is Free Talk Live. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Steve Classic.
And Mark Edge.
You can join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 13th through the 16th for the 8th Annual Fork Fest. 8th Annual Fork Fest.
8th Annual.
Wow. At Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which has sold out in recent years. Fork Fest happens the weekend before the Porcupine Freedom Festival. Fork Fest is decentralized, which means there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 13th through the 16th. You can find out more at the unofficial website, forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the Forkfest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms and the Forkfest forum. Links to all of those can be found at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there. June 13th through the 16th, forkfest.party. Last year was a particularly fun Forkfest for me. There was a wedding, Matt and Nikki.
Mm-hmm. You were at Fork and Pork.
I was, yes, and I'll be doing the same this year.
Mm-hmm.
I already got everything, reserved,
ready to go,
kind of thing, ready to go. So the wedding was a big to-do. Great time, lots of people, partying afterwards. The reception was killer.
Forkfest.party.
Yes. And then on what I call Porkfest Eve, that is the last day of Forkfest, the Sunday night, I released a 3-song EP. And I had exclusive on the USB
stick,
cards, branded specifically for Forkfest and Porkfest.
Mm-hmm.
We packed a military tent with 30 or so people. I was able to premiere my music videos for the 3 songs, and I played along with guitar, so it was a bit of a live performance to go along with the videos, kind of a thing. I had a great time. And if you missed out on that, you can, of course, still get the EP over at CaptainKickass.com. I also have T-shirts and, the normal merch stuff for sale. I have a bundle, actually, that includes the EP on a USB card and download, all 3 music videos, all the lyrics. There's some bonus features on it as well.
Signed?
You get a T-shirt. No, I didn't sign them. I could sign them, I guess. But you get a T-shirt, the EP, plus all the bonus features, all the videos, all the lyrics, all that stuff, and 2 packs of Captain Kick-Ass branded rolling papers, all for $40. It's called the Kick-Ass Bundle. You can go to CaptainKickass.com and you can find it there.
Do you think you would be liable if they rolled that pot in California with your rolling papers?
Only if they were in a Volkswagen.
That's bugging me.
Did we say who we are? We came back from the break.
Yeah,
we did all that. Okay.
Yeah, we did.
We were talking about this article from dailymail.co.uk. A California woman who stabbed her boyfriend 108 times and killed him
with a butter knife. With a bread knife.
With a bread knife. Is a do-gooding, mentally well girl who suffered from weed-induced psychosis, according to psychiatrist testimony. In the testimony from Spiker herself, the healthcare professional said she'd smoked weed only a few times before and had never been high. Her attack was launched because she had lost touch with reality as the cannabis had triggered voices in her head. Dr. Mohandy warned, people with no prior history of violence can consume cannabis even during one session and then proceed to commit acts of physical violence to themselves and to others.
This feels like the 80s.
I mean, yeah, where is, did they show a copy of, did they screen a copy of, what's it called? What's the movie?
Crack is Whack?
No, it's the 70s movie. It's,
Reefer Madness?
Reefer Madness, yeah. Did they screen that in the courtroom for the jury? Did they bust out the 1960s propaganda about marijuana
go crazy,
make you want to have sex with people of the other color? They did. Go look it up. I'm not even lying. This stuff exists. Other psychiatrists for the defense said they were 100% certain that the attack was caused by weed.
100%. Wow. Well.
Oh my gosh. That would be like saying, somebody drank too much tequila and got violent. that the attack was caused by tequila. It was helped.
It was helped. Maybe not 100%, but maybe 50%.
And Mark does have a point. Like, if you're going to hold people like that responsible for their actions, then that should hold true here.
Right.
Let's find out.
And I'm not suggesting that people who drink alcohol shouldn't be held to, for responsible for their actions. I think they should.
Right.
I think that, this is it. It all comes down to, I don't think prisons are very good at solving the problems that we think prisons solve. I, in fact, think that they are bad at it. In fact, make people worse at committing violent crimes. That prisons should be reserved for people who are dangerous to members of society, and that's really it. I don't know whether this girl would stab anybody else. That's somebody else's business to figure out, but it sounds like she could. I mean, can we keep her away from weed from here on out? I don't know.
108 times she stabbed the guy, and then she stabbed her dog, and then she stabbed herself.
Right. Oh wait, and then the cops batoned her.
To get her to stop. That sounds to me more like something like PCP. Perhaps
it sure does.
There's more to this story. Perhaps we'll get to it. Dr. Mohandy, who has seen at least a half dozen cases like this one, so
really
6
in California,
used his position on the stand to warn against widespread legalization of the psychoactive drug. It's yet another drug that now people think is safe because it's legal, and now more people are trying it. But it's more potent than it's ever been, and it's problematic, said Dr. Mohandy, who has testified in 80 cases before, including several involving marijuana. So this guy is making money now by testifying in these cases.
Expert witness, it costs $10,000 a day to get
right. Exactly. So people say it's just marijuana, and they try it and make it seem like it's insignificant. And how could that possibly happen? Well, that doesn't really fit with my professional experience. Spiker's behavior is well documented, in my opinion, of psychosis. I'm not disagreeing that there was some psychosis. There obviously is some psychosis going on here. Mm-hmm. We can find out more about this story, but first let's go to some of your calls and thoughts. We have an unscreened caller calling. What's your name, please? You're on the air.
Hey, this is Rusty from Portland.
Hey, Rusty. What's on your mind? You're on the air.
Well, it's good to hear Mark on the show again.
Thanks, Rusty.
I thought a few people might enjoy that.
Yeah, I was wondering, have you considered coming back to the show like one night a week, maybe?
Well, at this point, we've got to figure out how to do that. I've certainly considered it, but we've got to figure out how to schedule things and that kind of thing. I'm not going to kick anybody out of their seat.
Well, we have some things coming up that may allow, more of that to happen. So my hope is that we can get Mark on. I don't know if we'll have like any sort of regular cadence, but at least more than, once a year.
Right.
Because I'm with you. I think he deserves to be on this show.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, with Ian gone, we kind of need Mark, to be honest. You're half of the soul of the show, and without you, it's missing something.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's that hairdo.
I hope at least I got hair, buddy.
Oh, that's what I mean, man. Like, it's missing the hairdo, man.
It's a hairdo.
I got a hair don't, man. although in my defense, I can wake up from napping on the couch and look shower.
It's true.
So.
Right. Absolutely. Mine's going to be smashed to the side.
Why do you think I'm wearing a hat?
I also had a question for Captain Kickass.
Okay.
So you were saying, well, you said this several times, that you don't vote because you feel like voting is a violation of the non-aggression principle because you're trying to enforce your preference on others.
Correct.
Right? Well, what if you know that a certain candidate is highly more likely to cause death or imprisonment to you or others? Like, I feel like you should feel morally obligated to at least try to prevent that death and imprisonment with a stroke of a pen if you can. if there's a candidate less likely to kill you.
Has the situation you're describing ever happened?
Well, let's say the war on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the war on drugs is actively targeting, like, if you are someone who, say, smokes marijuana in a prohibition state,
okay,
then one candidate is more likely to throw you in a prison cell for it.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't voting for the other candidate be an act of self-defense?
And I believe I have said this, and if you missed it, it's okay. I'm happy to say it again. There is an argument to be made that you can vote in self-defense. I don't subscribe to that because I still think that I'm still forcing my opinion on somebody else, or my preference on somebody else, or they're forcing their preference on me. Either way, force is involved, and so I choose not to participate in that particular act.
But the non-aggression principle says that you are allowed to use force if force has been initiated upon you.
In self-defense, yes. So that's why I maintain that argument is a valid argument. However, I choose not to participate because I still feel like I'm violating I'm using force upon other people. I would rather other people come around to the ideas of liberty and freedom of their own voluntary volition than use force on people to do so.
Okay, so what if they do come around to the ideas of liberty of their own volition? It's not going to matter, because if they agree with you, they're not going to vote.
Well, no, not necessarily. Not necessarily. There are plenty of people who listen to me on this show and on Beard Talk Live, and who know me in person, who have listened to me, who go, yeah, you know what, I agree with you, but I'm still voting.
Okay.
So, like, it's a personal choice, really, the way I look at it. I kind of look at voting in the same way I look at abortion, right? I don't for a minute pretend that I know what's best for another individual. Whether or not another individual or a couple that I know wants to have an abortion or doesn't, or they have an argument about it, like, I'm not getting in that because, well, it's none of my business. It's their business. It's their personal choice. They have to live with their decision, right? It's none of my business. Now, I feel the same way about voting. This is my personal preference. I've stated my reasons why it is that way. However, that doesn't mean that I don't support people who are trying to forward freedom, liberty, who are trying to get rid of this behemoth evil known as the state, that its only thing that it uses ever is violence and coercion. That's it. That's the only tool it has in its bag. It doesn't have a variety of tools. It doesn't try and use reason and logic to get its way. The only thing it ever does is forces people one way or the other, depending on the issue. And so I still support people who are trying to do that. That's one of the reasons I support things like the Free State Project, the larger freedom migration that's occurring here in New Hampshire. It's not just the Free State Project that is attracting people here. It's the fact that New Hampshire has some of the fewest laws on the books of any state in the United States. For example, there's no seatbelt law here unless you're, I think, 16 or under. There's no helmet law. I see all the time people driving across from Massachusetts or Vermont or Maine coming across the border. As soon as they get across the border, they take their helmets off and continue their ride because they know they can. They come here specifically for that. So it's not that I don't support other people trying to forward liberty. It's just that my personal preference, I need to feel good about my choices in my life. And if I vote, I know that I'm forcing my opinion on somebody else, or somebody else's opinion is getting forced upon me, and so I choose not to participate in that particular act.
What about shouldn't you feel bad about, okay, if you have knowledge that you not voting is literally going to cause more pain and
give me an
harm.
example of that ever happening.
Okay, let's pretend a hypothetical situation. Ron Paul.
That's not what I asked. I asked for an actual example, not a hypothetical
one. I can't pull an actual example out of my butt right now.
So, to your knowledge, then it has never happened.
What if the next governor's racing in New Hampshire says, if I'm elected, we're going to secede? Is that a reason to vote for that governor? I will make that day one. We will put that forward. Let the word go forth from this time and place.
I cannot answer that at this time.
Okay. You're not legally required to answer it.
I'll say this much. Captain, I do not agree with your assessment that in any way that voting is a violation of the non-aggression principle, in so much as if you vote for the most libertarian candidate that's on the ballot. Now, I will say it is a violation of the non-aggression principle if you choose willingly to get the most aggressive candidate, the one that wants the biggest government. But I will also say, in your own defense, the likelihood that your vote will make a difference is near nil.
Right.
That if Ron Paul is running for president, let's say he's the youthful Ron Paul, Rand Paul, whatever, I don't care, is running for president, and you choose to vote or not vote for him, that will simply not make a difference with New Hampshire's 4 electoral votes, if that hasn't changed, and that those 4 electoral votes will likely not make a difference either, and that ultimately it just doesn't make a difference. That the instance that the vast majority of people who vote, even every single election, cannot point to an election where their vote in fact made a difference. And it's the reason I choose generally not to vote. And I would go so much farther as to say, is if you want to make a difference as to who gets into office, you need to do different things. You need to work the polls. You need to donate to campaigns. You need to do any variety of things to get those people elected. That a vote itself is inconsequential. Well, and I'll prove it.
Okay.
I'll prove it real quick. Think about any presidential election, any time in history. You can pick any of them, and you can move yourself around the map. You can put yourself in any state. Name to me the election where one vote has separated a president from winning or losing. Now, there was a really close one in Florida, and as to my knowledge, I was disallowed legally from voting in that particular election. But, that was still by more than 100 votes.
I mean, I disagree with the premise of voting as a valid decision-making process for communities of people.
What if they voluntarily choose to do that? So,
well,
somebody buys a piece of land.
Here's the thing,
and says,
okay,
let's do it.
Okay,
and they
do what?
Let's vote to solve our problems.
Well, then I'm no longer part of that community, because I would vote for no, let's not use voting as a mechanism to solve our problems. So here's the thing that maybe I haven't said, and I'll say it here now. There's this phrase that constantly goes around in my head, which is be the change you want to see in the world.
Oh, I thought it was who'll pave the roads.
No, it's not it. No. It's also not, beautiful, large-breasted women don't just fall out of the sky naked every day, It's also not that.
That's not true.
Be the change you want to see in the world. So I want to see a world where the state does not exist, where there is no voting for anybody in any political office. There is no organization of violence and coercion and force. There is no extortion of your life's effort by these organizations. And so I am only acting in that way. I want a world in which these things do not exist. Therefore, I do not play the game of those organizations.
Would you vote for someone who said that? What if you were running for governor, Captain?
Obviously no. Many people have said, I will throw money at you to run for office, and I have told them no.
You can just throw money at me.
I've told them, yeah, that's fine. If you want to just throw money, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm not going to run.
Make it some cryptocurrency or some gold backs or something like that. Don't throw USD at me. But that to me hits me very personally. I am trying to be the change.
A roll of quarters sure would.
Well, that'd probably knock me out, really.
Very personally.
Try not to throw those. So I am trying to at least act as if the world has already changed into that. Right? So people shouldn't have to worry about watching the television and listening to debates and reading through who supports what issue and what issue they don't, and watching them flip-flop on live television on their stances of things. People should not have to participate in any of this BS, this crap, this pageantry that the state puts on. It just shouldn't exist at all. People shouldn't have to worry about it at all. It should not exist. And so one of the methods that could very well work to end the state is everybody stop participating.
Right.
Well, if your method includes the word everybody, then your method isn't going to work.
Right. So
and that's why I say, you got to find a solution.
Well, actually, I think maybe the next presidential election, there might not be any voting. So your wish may come true.
So again,
people will vote.
No, they'll just suspend the election. No one will vote. There is no election this year for 2024. How about that?
I would love to see that. Right. I think that once people, as a species, get over the hallucination of authority, that the state can and will be just sort of ignored out of existence. The same way overt slavery was. Right? Okay, there was some legislation that kind of helped that along a little bit, but this was a social change, a change in the belief system of people writ large.
Right, people have to outgrow government.
Right, they have to realize that it is an antique, barbaric, certainly unfair, certainly a violent thing that exists.
It's like a legal religion.
Yeah. And so it needs to go away, and I prefer to live my life not participating in anything they put forth.
Period.
All right, well, thanks for clearing that up, Captain.
Yeah, hey, no problem. Did you have anything else to say, Rusty?
No, that's it. Y'all have a good night.
Hey, thanks for the call, man. We appreciate you. Let's see. Do we have time for one more? Maybe we can get unscreened caller. You're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm good. What's your name?
My name is Yu-Gi-Oh.
Hey, Yu-Gi-Oh. You are live on the air. What's on your mind?
Hey, man. I was just hearing the conversation earlier, bro, and I don't know. My personal opinion is, what would you do if you knocked up a broad and this broad was having health problems, and she was like, yeah, man, I'm gonna have this abortion, bro. You know what I'm saying? Would you be for that, man, or what would you tell this woman? Would you smack a bitch up or something?
Oh, I would have to cross that bridge when I came to it, because I've not been in that situation. It's something I would have to give a lot of thought, and hopefully we could communicate and make a decision together, because it takes two people to birth a child, to conceive, if you will. And so hopefully, if I were to have impregnated somebody, we could communicate and work through it together. However, that being said, that decision seems to be primarily made by the females in this day and age. So if she were like, hey, I'm just going to go do this, I'd be like, well, okay, I guess.
Well, men can have babies now.
I guess that's how it's going to be. So.
And you believe in the constitutionality? It's not a concepted human being. It's with the 14th Amendment.
No, I think that in this particular subject matter, that I am in agreement with something Peakless Mountaineer likes to say, and that is first breath. Right, I believe that's when life consciousness is officially begun. There are some sticky
wickets within that. I have the worst opinion on abortion of anyone you know. I believe that life begins at conception, and I believe that if somebody wants to kill their baby, they should.
Wow.
In fact, we should subsidize them. Because if you're willing to kill your baby for a few bucks, you don't deserve one.
Hey, we are out of time. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Yugi, for the call.
Thank you.
If you missed any part of the show, find us over at freetalklive.com, where the archives are. Thanks, and peace.
Free Talk Live.
I wanted to ask your listeners about the religion and the people who practice Wicca. What do they think their agenda is? Is it to take over the world? Or?
Oh, no. No, I don't think so.
I mean, because they're somewhat of bullies.
They're bullies? What do you mean?
They bully with the religion themselves. A lot of people are afraid of them.
Can you give me an example?
The Tea Party.
The Tea Party has to do with Wicca?
Well, it's mostly because they're so secretive.
So
the Wiccans.
The Wiccans are secretive and they have a lot of numbers,